Here you are, last run of the night.
Alrighty, everyone. Welcome to Soulcalibur 3 Chronicles of the Sword, a tangentially licensed game since Namco Bandai has never produced their own consoles apart from arcade games, but this will be the finisher of the night. It's a long run, but it's one that I've spent a lot of time on and have great enjoyment with. This is Soulcalibur 3 Chronicles of the Sword. Chronicles of the Sword is a game mode, to be clear, within the Soulcalibur game. Soulcalibur 3 was the first game in the series to allow create a soul character function that they have in later editions of Soulcalibur as well. And so they did this game mode specifically for created characters, and in the spirit of Licensed-thon, I've created a few licensed characters to round out my party, since except for a few soldiers, you get your main character and a bunch of others, all of which I'll be using during the run, are people that you create yourself. And there's a little bit of neat things you can do. It's kind of limited. PS2 era game, but good to go. Anyway, timing starts as soon as I sortie into the tutorial here, so I'll be counting down in 3, 2, 1... Sorry, false start. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Alrighty, so Soulcalibur 3, Chronicles of the Sword, is in addition to character creation, is a strategy role-playing game version of the Soulcalibur universe. So, Soulcalibur, one of the neat things about it is that it has had things called missions throughout Soulcalibur's various... throughout the various Soulcalibur games, just fighting arenas that have special effects in them. And they make great use of that in the Soulcalibur Chronicles of the Sword mode that we have here. You can see there's a mission on this stronghold that I'm about to take. And we are... Oh yes, there's a lot of menuing in this game. Learning to be fast on menus. If I were even faster, I could do even better, as it were. But... So there are various missions. They won't affect us very much. This is a basic one, poison. You can see the green on our weapons here. That means our life is draining slowly down. And our first character we have is Primrose. The main character is a dancer, which I use for strats, which you're going to see throughout the game. It's going to be a whole lot of that spin to win you just saw if you didn't blink and miss it. And so, recent game I've been playing, Octopath Traveler, features the dancer Primrose, so she's our star of this. I'll get into a little bit more about dancers and the rest of my characters who are sword masters a bit later. Here's a minor speed tech. With all the menuing, the game freezes during menus, so one of the things I have to do to maximize time is to make sure that menus are... I access as few menus as possible. Yep. So, every time that you do a menu, it freezes, and any orders you give on the map will continue for your character until he is involved in a Soulcalibur combat, like we've got here, which is basically what I call these battles here. Oh, that was extremely unusual. So by delaying my second character before issuing the order to move, he will not be involved in the combat, and therefore I won't have to issue him a new order. But every time you enter a Soulcalibur combat, it cancels all orders that you've given. And you'll see that in action quite a few times throughout the run. So, in this game mode, the main objective most of the time is to take the main stronghold, which is always a level 4 stronghold. Each of us in the first 19 Chronicles in the tutorial will have one main stronghold. It'll either be level 4 or level 5. There are no other strongholds in the game that are that level. Otherwise, you have levels 1, 2, and 3. Most strongholds, when you take them, will go down a level, except for a few permanent 3 fixtures that are in a couple of the Chronicles. You can spend some of your gold that you earn to build things up, which I will also be doing a couple of times during the course of the game. This is the tutorial battle, and unfortunately there's no way to skip it unless I do a true New Game Plus with a party that's already beaten the game once. So it's extremely boring because, among other things, the enemies don't do anything, and I have to listen to a lot of instructions from Gerardo. Story-wise, this takes place on a fictional continent with 3 fictional nations: the Grandal Empire, the Kingdom of Dalkia, and the Haltese Republic. And they're often engaged in war. Right now it's a time of peace, but our character is a cadet in a military academy at Perusia, the imperial military for the Grandal Empire. And General Gerardo, who's the general of the entire Grandal army, is our instructor. So this tutorial, he's teaching us how the game works, of course, your basic kind of RPG in-game tutorial teaching session. We'll fight the exact same map in Chronicle 1, except that we'll actually have a major opponent and the enemies will actually be moving around, so... So we've cleared our first Chronicle by taking the main stronghold. Most of the objectives, like a lot of your strategy RPGs, each map has different objectives. Most of them, since this is a rather simplistic, just SRPG game mode in a fighting game, there aren't a lot of complications here, and most of them are taking the main stronghold. But there will be a couple where I have to do slightly interesting things. So in Chronicle 1, we're up against Abilia, the sharpest woman at the Academy, in a little mock training battle, which our character takes way too seriously. Now we finally get 3 characters, and we'll have at least 3 for the rest of the run. And for the most part, I'm going to be aiming, naturally, to get to the main stronghold as fast as possible. Fighting as few battles as I can along the way, because, as you've seen, it takes quite a bit of time to load up the battle screens, so... Luckily, the first few Chronicles are, of course, a lot smaller maps, but then the maps will get progressively bigger as we go throughout the game. So normally you fight a stronghold after the people attacking it have reduced its hit points to 0, and then after it's taken, it goes down a level, or if the defender wins, it restores about 20% of its hit points, and will continue to regenerate over time if no one's attacking it. But you can actually force battles at any time with anyone who's engaged with you or the stronghold that you're in, which of course I'm also going to be doing a lot over the course of the run, because I don't want to waste time letting enemies attack my stronghold. Now, in addition to their character classes in this game, along with levels, you've seen that I'm getting experience from these battles. It's some of the mini RPG elements. The various classes do have different stats. My main character is a dancer, who is, they are some of the worst stats in the game. However, the dancer is the only character who has access to the Soul of Xianghua weapon style, which I'm using here, along with her ultimate weapon of Soulcalibur, which has several extra abilities, including some extra high attack power that other swords in her line do not have. Now, and you have just seen the power of Spin to Win, and just how significant that moveset is. And for some reason, this is not the case in any other Soulcalibur game, and I have played all of them pretty extensively. I have not found any attacks that the AI just fails to block like I have in Soulcalibur 3. There are actually a good number of them, and anybody who's played this game a decent amount has probably found several on a couple of weapon styles that they really like. If you're just starting out, the Barbarian has Iron Sword that with an AB command gives 2 swings that the AI just can't seem to block both effectively. There's a couple of them, but Xianghua's Spin to Win move is far and away the strongest. However, there are a couple of reasons why I can't use all dancers, and one is because their stats are so horrendously horrible. It's a bit of a glass cannon and a high risk, high reward kind of weapon style. So it works for the leader who's going to be doing most of the fighting. I will avoid dying enough time to make up a lot of time over using a safer weapon, which is what the sword masters are. But any of these enemies at any time can just choose to be aggressive. Here's Abilia. All these cutscenes are unskippable. If they ever did a HD remaster of this game like they have the Soulcalibur 2 and others they've released for download to Xbox Live and stuff, on Xbox Live and everything, I would really love for them to initiate the mode to skip cutscenes and another few speedrunning tricks, but since all I have is the basic PS2 hardware, I haven't put up with it. In addition to classes, your characters have unit types, which you can change at the beginning of each chronicle, which I'm going to be doing in a couple chronicles here. For the most part, I'm going to be spending nearly the entire run as bandits. Bandits have increased speed over your base unit of infantry, and they also do more damage to strongholds, except for main strongholds, which is a little weird thing I might talk about later. But what is weak about them is that you can leave your units just to fight each other if they encounter each other in the field, except for a few bosses who will deliberately initiate combat with you. There are a few of those. But because it's faster to go to Soulcalibur combat anyway, it doesn't matter at all that my people would be destroyed in regular combat. So now in Chronicle 2, we're moving on to our graduation test against General Gerardo and his elite guard. And once again, the base strat is the same as in most of them. We're just going to be charging straight towards him as fast as possible. There are 2 units who will take these northern and southern paths trying to assault my strongholds. They're going to take them, but it really doesn't matter. Not having to fight them is much faster and better. And also these 2, actually, if I were to defeat one of them, he would join my party later on and he would have additional dialogue, which, as fast as you can skip the text, would still take a little bit of time, and we don't want to do that.
Decisive battle.
Yep. Yeah. It was also the last Soulcalibur to get an arcade mode, I believe. Soulcalibur 4 and 5 didn't get an actual arcade version made for it. Which is unfortunate, but, you know, arcades have gone by the wayside by that time, so I guess it makes sense.
It's not shameful to be weak.
Yes, 2 was multi-platform. A lot of people were upset that Soulcalibur 3 was PlayStation 2 only. They decided to do that because their focus was on the create a soul function. They wanted to make it the best game possible rather than trying to split their resources to make it function on multiple consoles, which upset a lot of people who played it on GameCube and Xbox, of course. Since I played SC2 on PlayStation 2, I was perfectly fine, but it did lose a lot of fans in that. Later editions, of course, 4, 5, and 6 are all on multiple platforms as well. You could even get SC6 on PC, which is what I play it on, so that's nice at least. No, none of them. Actually, 4, 5, and 6 are all multi-platform. They're on Xbox and PlayStation, and now SC6 on PC as well, yep. So, Soulcalibur 3 is the only one that is multi-platform, which in some ways, and also because it does not have any licensed guest characters, it is ironically the least licensed game type of its class, but, you know, whatever. I made up for it by including some licensed characters.
Decisive battle.
Yep, Heihachi for the PS2, Link, of course, for GameCube, and Spawn for Xbox. And then, of course, Yoda and Darth Vader in Soulcalibur 4, along with the Apprentice from Force Awakens.
You will succeed in life. Of course.
Soulcalibur 5 had Enzio Auditore, the Assassin. Soulcalibur 6 has so far given us Geralt from Witcher and 2B from Nier Automata. So a lot of guest characters in those. Also, Soulcalibur 6 has announced that Hyomaru from the Samurai Showdown series is going to be part of the second season downloadable characters, so that's pretty neat too. So far, things are going pretty smooth. Gerardo is one of the first people who can really punish me if he likes, especially with his very long-range spear. But he wasn't too bad to take care of. Now, so far, there's no difference between any percent, the normal edition of this game, and SC percent that I'm running right now. I will be 2 more Chronicles before that really makes a difference, and I'll get into that in just a bit. So now with this, we've graduated from our days at the Academy, and we've been given command of a small border post near Dalkia. And in the middle of the night, we're suddenly attacked by bandits. So I'm actually going to change my character to an infantry here, not because I need to fight in combat, but because I need to be slower to go faster in this one. It's a very weird thing. But as I mentioned, some of the Chronicles have unique victory conditions, and this one actually requires me to defeat all enemies. It's probably a story-based requirement because of what leads into it. I'll get into that in a minute, but because of that, I can't just charge straight towards the main stronghold because some of the enemies are heading towards my stronghold. I have to intercept them, but some of them are supremely slow. So one of the neat things about this game is the different sides. As Grandal, we're the red color, we're fighting bandits, which are orange. Blue is also associated with Grandal, and we'll see that a couple times besides the training missions we just did. But as we fight other nations, you'll see new colors appearing for them. and it actually matters in one map. We are fighting two different people at once, and you can tell the differences by their colors. There are a lot of levels. There are 20 Chronicles in total. The first few take about 4 minutes each. They're pretty fast, but the later ones take 10 to 15 minutes pretty extensively, and it's a lot of battles. I fight over 200 Soulcalibur battles over the course of this run, even skipping as many as I can. The any percent run is a little bit, it's about 3 hours and 15 minutes on average, I'd say, while but the SC percent run adds about 40 minutes to that. 45
Final
minutes,
battle.
yeah.
Fight.
It's over.
Now we finally get to see other characters at work. The Swordmaster, despite being level 1, has better stats than my Dancer does right now, and has access to the second best weapon, the Katana.
I am the victor of this match.
Generally, they are. There are some of them that are pretty slow, though. Some of the bosses, because of the missions that are assigned to them, some of them get pretty slow. Most of them are fast. If this could ever be played on, say, a PS5 upcoming with its instant loading times, I would probably save an hour and a half just on loading screens because of how much time that takes with all the battles. A lot of times it takes longer to load the battle than to actually fight the battle. So the reason I'm infantry is because of these two guys. They are knights, which are the slowest unit in the game. They do the most damage to strongholds, but because they are so slow, they're useless for a speedrun, and I have to wait for them. And since, again, just as I've been talking about, loading times take so long, if I were a bandit and trying to attack this stronghold, I would take it very quickly, and then I'd have to wait for those two knights to come up anyway, and I'd actually fight them in multiple parts. But by being slow, all three of them will arrive just in time. That was a mess up. My samurai are not doing well today, or my swordmasters. Other nice. But because I want to minimize the amount of times that I load, it's actually faster to be slower so I can get all three of these guys at once. If the mission were longer, it probably wouldn't help, but I'm only going to have one other stronghold to take by that character after he's all done anyway, so it ends up actually saving time to take a minute as a inventory. There's little neat things about this game mode that I really love. Soulcalibur 6 gave us another create a soul type RPG game mode called Libra of Souls, but it's single character and very, very, very linear. There's a little bit you could do to explore, but especially as a speed run, it's largely a lot of matching and then battles, mash, battles. There's very little you actually do outside of the battles to interact with the game on the speedrun setting. So I played around with it, but I haven't devoted a lot of attention to it because it's actually half the length of this run. It takes 2 hours or less pretty easily. There's a really good runner who can do it in an hour and a half with load times and everything, but it is a lot more intense because, among other things, Soulcalibur 6 does not have any super abusable moves like Soulcalibur 3 does, among others, and the fact that there is very little downtime. This is actually all the downtime in the there's a lot of little tech that I'm doing during the strategy segments, but for the most part it's pretty quickly done, and then it's just a lot of waiting for your characters to move around and take strongholds. So this is actually one of the most relaxing 4-hour speedruns you will ever see. It is there is apart from the battles, there is not a lot of intense stuff going on. There are a few windows and stuff I have to try and give orders in just to save little bits of time by avoiding as many fights as possible. There are extra fights I can get if I'm not fast enough on my orders in some places, but otherwise it's not major nerve-wracking or anything, or hyper-intense. Although it can be very tricky to try to maneuver your units along the trails here with the D-pad. They tend to have you can only go along the roads that are shown when you give units orders for movement, but sometimes when you reach a point where you stop, like you would at the stronghold right here, the game has a mind of its own and starts automatically sending you one way or the other. Now, this here is abusing an AI mechanic where most AI enemies who aren't programmed to charge at the beginning of the battle will fall back to defend the main stronghold when it comes under attack, so I have to defeat all enemies, but by just ignoring that stronghold, he comes out to defend this place anyway. Now, as we fight the leader of these bandits, whose name right now is a mystery, they will not tell us who this guy is. His two minions he has with him are important for the storyline, which they express. It's a pretty simple story overall, of course, but these bandits are dressed as Grandal soldiers. As you're going to see, they look like the generic soldiers we fought in the first couple of Chronicles and the tutorial. And this leads into the next Chronicle when we start a war with Dalkia, because Dalkia claims that Mr. Generic Grandal Soldier here is the one who attacked them. And since they were attacked by people in Grandal uniforms, they attacked us in retaliation, claiming that they weren't declaring war, they were just avenging themselves. And so this war started and our character realizes that this is a setup, but we have no choice but to go into battle. Now, despite being a very prominent boss in this game, Mr. Question Marks here is generally not very difficult. He begins as a thief. Even later on, he actually graduates to Swordmaster himself, which makes his stats outrageous, but his AI is just not good, and the dagger is not a particularly great weapon. It's a lot of fun to play casually because there are actually bombs you can throw and with a single command, and you can harass the enemy, a lot of AI at long range with it, but it's not particularly dangerous in any case, and it isn't fast either, so it's no use to the speedrun, unfortunately. So, of course, he runs away. Since he ended in a cutscene, we know we're going to see him again. Yes, that is our character. Our character appears in all of these, and it's your main character only. If you have another character, well, no, that's not technically true. If you're, a couple of them feature only your main character, or will draw your main character in if they're in this situation, but others will not. So now Dalkia has declared war on us, and this is the first Chronicle where our route deviates from any percent. Need to change that bandit before I forget. No, my profile pick is actually Keelik from Soulcalibur 2. But they use a very similar face for Loki. Or not Loki, Chester, that guy. I'm delaying slightly once again so that enemies will enter the stronghold before I finish destroying it, so that will limit the number of loading screens I get. So there are, in the course of the Chronicles of the Sword, there are 23 super bosses that are hidden around. They are usually off the main trail, so you can avoid them if you want to, but they are the Soulcalibur characters. All 23 of the regular Soulcalibur characters that you can get, not including Ulkadan, the hidden boss, or Abyss, the unlockable final boss, and of course Night Terror, the not unlockable super secret, unplayable evil super boss. Apart from those three, there are 23 Soulcalibur characters, and those same 23 styles you can give to your created characters. Here is Luna. Luna is one of our primary rivals, General of Dalkia, and she is we will fight her more than any other character in the game, actually. She has quite a bit of significance in the story. A lot of it is kind of hidden lore that you can even miss out on if you don't, or that rather you can get a little bit more insight on if you use some of the other characters that they give you at some points, but she's not much of a threat most of the time. But anyway, now that I've defeated her and I have to continue my assault here, I'm going to be taking a detour so I can defeat Astaroth, the first of the 23 Soulcalibur bosses. They're level 60, so they're worth a huge amount of experience, and it's fun to see them, which is why I created this kind of semi-noon challenge category of SC percent. So that's cool, yeah. The ability to continue creating characters in the other Soulcalibur games is great. And one of my big wishes is that Libra of Souls was okay, but I really would like a new Chronicles of the Sword mode in later editions of Soulcalibur, or if we're talking about just wishes here, what I'd really like is a standalone Soulcalibur 3 Soulcalibur Chronicles of the Sword game, with new weapons and everything made specifically for that game mode and everything focused on it to perfect all the weapons.
It's not shameful to be weak.
Yep.
It seems
In
like
any
you've had
any
enough.
percent,
Very well then.
it's your standard 80%. You try to win as fast as possible, but the SC percent means I have to fight all of these level 60 Soulcalibur characters, which, in my opinion, makes it a more interesting run because I have to slightly, I have to give other characters more action, and I get to fight all of these unique bosses. So we're going to send one of our level 1 Swordmasters to defeat the level 60 Astaroth. Luckily, his class is Barbarian. Each class in the game of the 12 can use 2 of the Soulcalibur bosses. I'm going to fortify up here just as a bit of protection, because some of the enemies are going to try attacking that, and I want to avoid having them get too involved in the combat. Now, he should stay in there. Good. Okay, so Astaroth is hidden down here. I could totally avoid him if I wanted to. And he's level 60, but he's a Barbarian. Barbarian is one of the 6 opening classes, and it's kind of weak. It has good attack power and okay hit points, but its agility and its defense are not good, so those hit points don't actually mean a whole lot. But he does do an extreme amount of damage if I let him hit me. Luckily, I am a Swordmaster, so my stats are pretty good, even at level 1. It's really, they're higher than my level 8 Dancer still. My level 20 Dancer, the level 1 Swordmaster, will still have better stats. That's why you have 4 of them in addition to the Dancer as a sidebar, as it were. And then, but Astaroth's attack power and his hit points, at least, are still better than mine. So it's
Battle 1.
there is a threat of dying there, which was too much. Now, the mission in this map is Whirlwind, which is our first instance of a really annoying mission. I ended up missing that first attack because the wind pushed me slightly away. Whirlwind is actually a fairly advanced mechanic for just a PS2 game. They didn't even bother to have anything like it in Soulcalibur 6. They just made everything slippery, which we'll get to in a bit. We'll see that mission. But Whirlwind physics actually do push you around in a circle. They end up rotating your character. So it's back and away. So depending on where you are, it has more or less effect. So here's Astaroth. Every time you fight a Soulcalibur character, they have a little line of dialogue, and then after you defeat them, they have a line of dialogue. But except for having the stats of the level 60 character class they're supposed to be, they are exactly like their regular Soulcalibur format in their second costume, some of which are quite hilarious. Behold, Hammerhead Astaroth. Luckily, throws do not actually do damage based on your strength. It's one of the... I'm not sure if it was intended or not, but throws are actually very weak in Chronicles of the Sword, so I don't care if people throw me except for the time that it wastes. I will never be engaging in throws myself, except for super hyper specific circumstances I may get into. But so that's Astaroth down, the first one. You've got guts for a fool. Spouting off dialogue as he goes. Now, need to fortify this up to 3, protect myself from the enemies who are going to be coming after me, because now that I'm attacking the main stronghold, they're all going to try and come and get me. But this is a trick I'll be doing throughout the entire run. I'll be building up strongholds behind me in order to protect my characters so that I don't have to engage in meaningless battles. If they were to come and meet me while I was taking the stronghold, my characters would be forced to stop attacking the stronghold and attack the enemies fighting them instead. So it isn't even that I could try a race against time to destroy the stronghold before they killed me. I would have to fight those battles, and I don't want to do that, so... So one thing to note about the boss of this map, Arion, is all of the characters except for the Soulcalibur ones can be created by you in Create a Soul. They just use all the pieces. The entire purpose of this is to show off the Create a Soul function, all the things you can do. But this character has a unique attribute. There are 2 characters in the game who are extremely tall. I don't know why, but Arion is extremely tall. But it doesn't make him any stronger or increase his reach or do any gameplay effect that I've been able to ascertain from playing this game 1,000 times. But just something to note about him. We'll see the next one much, much, much later in the run. That green glowing effect, or multicolored, largely green glowing effect, was the effect of a cure mission, so his health points would recover over time. Of course, not enough to prove any significant thing. Doing relatively well so far, but it's just the first 4 Chronicles. Sub 30 Chronicle 4 means that I'm not on a bad pace. So we finally get a 4th character added to the mix now, and we have 2 Soulcalibur characters to deal with. Oh god, I'm messing up my placement. There we go. Which, this one greatly changes the route from SC% because of that. Primrose is just going to come here. There's only technically one stronghold between my starting point and the enemy main stronghold, but there are a couple of complications. The first is this bridge. Even though there's only ever one victory condition, there are oftentimes multiple loss conditions. And in this map, if I allow these guys to come in here and take this alternate bridge, I didn't wait nearly long enough. Oh well. I end up losing the Chronicle, and then I have to start over. Losing a Chronicle is mostly just a time loss, and it can be pretty extreme. If I ever have to restart a Chronicle, that's pretty much I kiss any of my chance at a PB or world record, since I'm the only person who runs this category. Goodbye. This game mode, period. But
Battle 1. Fight.
usually I can avoid that. But there are a few things I have to be wary of. Now, one of the things that I also have to be careful of while I do this is that certain of the
2. Fight.
when I'm waiting for multiple enemies to reach me so I can engage them, they will only begin the battle once they've actually swung their weapon and reached a particular point. It's kind of one of the weird things about the way the strategy map mode works, is that even though we're moving along pixel-based movement, it is actually a square-based map, a grid, square sectionals, as it were, that the map is divided into, even though you can't see them. And so, oftentimes you'll see 2 people heading towards each other, and then one of them will suddenly stop and wait for a second for his enemy to get into position before they will both start swinging at each other. And that's because because there's already an enemy in that square, even if they haven't reached their placement, so he can't move into it. And so once he reaches his placement in the square, he has to wait for the other person to reach his point before they can actually do that. So our first Soulcalibur character is actually standing outside a base. It's Ivy here, in a very unique outfit compared to most he ever wears. Any of you who played Soulcalibur know Ivy's base outfit, but this is her secondary outfit for this game, and it's rather unique. And we'll just have to wait to see it after it gets the loading screen. I love these 2 stick fighting guys in the loading screen, though, I must say. They did a nice little touch there. Okay, so here is Ivy, secondary outfit, Madame Rose, or whatever she's supposed to be. Now, you may notice that I didn't win from Ring Out. This is the only Soulcalibur mode I've seen in any of the Soulcalibur games where, instead of getting automatic victory, a Ring Out does half the maximum health and damage to the enemy. So as you saw there with Ivy, you can ring her out. That was a super awesome Ivy fight, though. That went a lot better than it usually does. I can usually beat her, but she blocks really well, and she has a lot of hit points because she's of the pirate class. Yes, actually. Her default is way overstated dominatrix, appealing to young men, to pubescent boys, young teenage men, and her secondary outfits usually, because they can't take anything away, they add more clothing and they usually look interesting, but they've never done one like that Rose outfit. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. I like most of the secondary outfits in Soulcalibur 3 better than the primary ones, and I'll be pointing them out as we go through them because we have 21 more to do. Now, Rowan here is the boss of the level. This level is actually unique in one other way, that it is the only level in the entire game where the boss does not stay inside the main stronghold.
You should take better
And
care of your
unfortunately,
life.
the victory condition is actually to take the main stronghold, which actually means in the any percent run of this stage, I do not fight Rowan, the boss of the stage. I actually just ignore him because he just wanders back and forth on this trail for a while and never engages me in combat. And so then when I take this stronghold, he tries to get back, but because he's a cavalry are the fastest unit, but they're the slowest at taking strongholds, and so my characters will take the main stronghold before he ends up taking just that one, so he can come and get me. Yeah. So normally, I only keep one character on this right side, again, in an any percent run, rather. I keep only one character on this right side in order to keep the enemy from taking that second half of the bridge and therefore costing me to lose the Chronicle. But the second Soulcalibur character is here on this opposite side of the map, so there's about a 4-minute difference between any percent and Chronicle and SC percent for this Chronicle because of that. I have to keep two characters, so it takes me less time to take the main stronghold, and instead have them take on these extra battles over on this section. Because Cervantes, unlike his daughter, is in this stronghold. Now, both Cervantes and Ivy are the pirate classes. How they distributed the characters between the classes kind of makes sense, and in some ways is kind of doesn't. Because they tended to favor family relationships with a lot of them, or characters who were super similar, and then in other places, they didn't bother. So Ivy and Cervantes, who are related, are both pirates, which exist pretty much only because of Cervantes, the class pirate. Even though Ivy would be closer to a sage. However, Cassandra and Sophitia are the two sages. But in the case of Nightmare, even though Nightmare is the Azure Knight, he is not a knight class, but a barbarian. And I'll get into that when we meet him much later down the line. I have a lot to say about that. Siegfried is a knight, but even though they are almost identical and they're related to each other, you know, Nightmare being his dark half or whatever, all that, in this case being the animated suit of armor with the power of Soul Edge by Zasalamel, they are not the same class, which makes no sense whatsoever since they make Sophitia and Cassandra the same class, but whatever. Taking a decent amount of damage, I'm probably going to lose my main character, which is going to cost me a small amount of time. If your characters are defeated, they will respawn after a short period of time at the nearest level 3 or higher stronghold. And so there are a couple points in the game where I'm going to be building up a stronghold, mostly as a safety measure to have a place to respawn to in case a character is defeated, because there are a couple times I've never done a deathless run of this game. That would be the most amazing thing ever. It's almost impossible to get deathless, especially since there are actually a couple places where it's even more, it's almost impossible not to die, and I'm just throwing bodies at an enemy, and a couple places, or one place in particular where it may actually be faster to die depending on how the fights go.
Well, it's time to move on.
Most likely will be faster to die. But again, just the RNG in this run is the same RNG you'll have in any fighting game speed run. It's just how much the enemy aggressively attacks you, essentially, especially with the method of combat I use. Spin to win takes a little bit of setup, so if they decide to attack mid or low before I get it going properly, they will just slaughter me, and because I'm a glass cannon dancer, it only takes a few hits to kill me, even though most of the experience is being shoveled into my character. But if they delay or I manage to outsmart them slightly with a couple of pre-battle movements, I can waste almost any character in the game by keeping them stun-locked with that spin to win.
Battle 1.
So here's Cervantes' secondary outfit. He looks less like a pirate and more like an armored warrior. Whoops, that was unintentional, but whatever. Cervantes is pretty tough. His AI is really, really good. He's very good at blocking and taking advantage of my hits. Shoulder Charge is not the most unavoidable attack for enemies, but the thing that there is about it is that it leads to a lot of follow-up damage, and the Mirosame weapon they're wielding is really powerful. You can see how much life drain I'm getting. It's a vampiric weapon that gives me back life as I deal damage, although it also causes me to lose life over time. But the amount of life steal you get in this game is really broken, so that's what makes this so powerful. Yeah. So now the rest of these enemies are going to run back. I end up actually killing pretty much all enemies in the FC run. There are several I managed to outsmart and not fight, including the Soulcalibur characters in the ending percent, but because of how I have to split up, I end up having to fight both of them. I'm not bothering to send my character, the other two, there because they actually will not make it before I destroy this stronghold. So it's unfortunate that they aren't there to make this go faster, but I had to have them where they were at.
Decisive battle. Battle 1.
All right. All of the maps that are used are the same, or the stages of combat, I guess I should say, are the same ones that are used in the regular Soulcalibur game. They didn't make any unique ones just for this game mode, of course. As I say, it was kind of a secondary project to the main game just to show off the creative soul. But they assign specific stages to each stronghold, and even to certain sections of the map. You'll always get the same battles that tend to be pretty flavorful.
It's not shameful to be.
And you may notice that I almost always end my battles with the taunt, which in addition to the 23 Soulcalibur styles, there are the 17 weapon styles that all the rest of the enemies I'll be fighting use, and which the katana that my swordmasters are using is included. The swordmaster is capable of using all 17 of those styles, but none of the Soulcalibur ones. They also do not have taunts on any of those styles, which is a bit unfortunate because it's just something I like to do at the end of battles. It's a little bit of a kind of mini ADD thing. I have to be doing something, so I usually like to get taunt. Since I can't taunt with the Swordmasters, I tend to use Soul Charge instead. So that's that one. Rowan says, "Darn, we're retreating." Which he says even if you haven't defeated him, but since you didn't just defeat him there, it's pretty funny. So now we're having our second fight against... Luna and her Klesser Pemdo. I don't know why the Klesser Pemdo have that title, but it is the title assigned to the warrior women under her command. So, whatever. The Klesser Pemdo are kind of interesting girls, though, because they each have an element associated with them. And, of course, Soulcalibur isn't a real RPG. There are no elemental attacks or elemental weaknesses or anything associated with it. But they make up for that by causing the strongholds that they are guarding to have specific... I don't think I went all the way. Specific themes in their mission and in their stage. The stage assigned to that stronghold as a way of kind of dictating what their class is. So it's one of the things that they do with it. So as we'll see, now a couple of the missions that are associated with those elements are extremely annoying and we want to avoid them. And so when I very, very first started running this, it didn't take me too long to figure this out, but I did what I always do casually. One of the requirements is actually to fight the Klesser Pemdo and defeat all four of them in addition to Luna in her main stronghold, so you can't avoid fighting them. But I used to do what I would do casually and send one character up each lane, which is kind of what you're intended to do. 4 characters, 4 lanes, 4 Klesser Pemdo, take out all the strongholds and characters, and then goodness, finding the characters is sometimes a little tricky. And then I realized that I could go a lot faster by just going up one lane and then attacking the main stronghold. Similar to a couple of the other earlier missions, both of these characters here are programmed to defend the main stronghold if it comes under attack. So Ice and Quake are these two, which are extremely annoying. Ice and Quake. Ice is ice physics on the battlefield arena. It's been used several times in Soulcalibur games, and it is a huge pain. You know, ice physics are always bad. Any game you play, you're familiar with it. Loopy is fire, though, so she has all guard break, which may seem weird because the weapon is wreathed with lightning. But since all guard break is upgraded to all unblockable, essentially, in the way that Soulcalibur's system works with its blocking and guard breaking and stuff, it's basically a lesser fire element, as it were, and you can tell the stage is fire element as well. So that's Loopy. We'll fight the Cluster Pendo and Luna a couple more times after this, and fortunately, or fortunately, however you feel, let's see. Yeah. Let's give Ichigo a chance to fight. So other characters we've got are Kenshin from Rurouni Kenshin. This is our Soulcalibur character on this map, Lizard Man. Good old Lizard Man is here, and he is an assassin, which is kind of weird for a Greek warrior transformed into a monster to be an assassin. But, you know, that they kind of just had to fill out classes. He's rather deadly. Assassins have extremely high attack power, one of the highest attack powers in the entire game. And most of the classes focus more on attack power, so that means it's very high. But his hit points aren't great, especially when you ring him out. He isn't quite dead, though. He has a sliver of health. That was a good Lizard Man fight.
Okay.
Yes, yes. The SC6 Lizard Man, especially the one in particular. Our Lizard Overlord. Alrighty. Okay, so that's taken care of. Now we're going to be fighting Elua, who is the wind character. She has a Whirlwind, which is moderately annoying. Oh, a Voldo style Lizard Man? Yeah, that's good. Maybe I should make my gal do that.
Decisive battle.
But it is cool that you can make Lizard Men characters in the game. They don't have a proper Aeon Lizard Man, though, the guy who is the Lizard Man in Soulcalibur 2, 3, 4, and 5. But he's in the data code. You can actually fight that Lizard Man. And he uses a weapon style that isn't available for creation or use anywhere. So he exists, but thus far they haven't released him as a playable character. That was a good Elua fight. Elua is generally pretty easy, but the Whirlwind can mess things up if it pushes me wrong, but I didn't have any problems with it there. This isn't a bad Whirlwind, but some of them will go later. Now, generally, the effects of a Stronghold's mission will be more powerful based on how powerful the level of the Stronghold, basically, level 1. In addition, low-level ones will affect both characters, like level 1 poison, both characters will be poisoned, but if it's level 2 or higher, only the attacker will be poisoned. While pure level 1, both characters will gain hit points, but at level 2, only the one will. Now, AG and Hildo are running back to defend, as we saw. But sometimes, some of the maps, or some strongholds in particular, I should say, just happen to have a much stronger effect. And that Whirlwind was not very strong. But later on, I'll have to fight a couple Whirlwinds that are just awful, which we will see. In particular, a couple of the Soulcalibur battles are just complete and utter pains because of effects like Whirlwind and Ice. So now we get to fight all three of them here. Usually, in most circumstances, you would fight a boss last when you take a stronghold, but if the boss has a cutscene with your character, you'll always fight them first. And speaking of which, there's only one battle you fight against Luna where you don't get a cutscene. Boom.
So we meet again. Now, it's time to collect on your
Now, the
debt.
game doesn't keep track of which of your characters defeat her. I'm doing it in the speedrun. You'll generally do it the normal way. Your main character will defeat Luna, which is fine, but she develops a a rivalry with your character, but even if you defeat her every other time with one of your secondary characters, she will actually have dialogue present in the game that indicates that she doesn't care about any of those characters. She only wants to fight your leader, in this case Primrose. Heal Does, and there we go. That's what can happen. Sometimes Heal Doe is generally really easy, but sometimes the AI says, I am the superhero. Sometimes it'll even be just a generic nobody that suddenly will turn into super aggressive and combo you to death.
Fight.
It's over.
Take a bath. For the most part, I don't mind that ring outs do not instant kill as they would in any other mode, because unlucky ring outs would be far more punishing that way most of the time. Because of my recovery abilities and how aggressive I am, I'm high enough to survive it, and so it gives me a second chance. It doesn't lead to just an automatic defeat. Here's AG of Earth. We would be fighting her on Quake, which is a kind of annoying mission we'll see a couple of, where every 3 seconds the ground will just shake, and if you're standing on the ground when that 3 seconds hits, you'll be stunned. So it's a moderately annoying effect, but not super duper bad. But it's this weak Whirlwind and the guard break are a lot less significant, so going right in this case is far better. So that's our last battle against Dalkia for a little while, because we've been advancing into Dalkia as part of this war. We defended the bridge between our two nations with help of Abilia, who has shown up and joined our party. There are a number of NPCs who have dialogue and stuff in the game who will join in your list of characters that you can use. But since you have a limited amount that you can field at a time, and they're not nearly as good as the swordsman I can create, so I just do that. Now Gerardo's actually joined us, as we are suddenly fighting the nation of Haltese, the Haltese Republic. They have declared war on us out of nowhere, probably thinking that they're going to take advantage of their two weakened neighbors. And so, with that declaration of war, the Emperor decided to issue us orders to leave most of our force in Dalkia in the hands of Abilia. She's going to be leading the rest of our army, and we're to take our main group and head into the Haltese to fight them. Which the characters in our unit, our military unit, are rather upset by this, because they think that Abilia is being left to get all the glory while we are being stuck with all of the dirty work, and we have to fight more battles against fresh enemies who haven't been involved in combat all this time. And it's such a horrible situation we're in, and suddenly General Gerardo shows up and is like, sounds like you guys are in a pickle, I'll help you out. Like, really? General Gerardo's like general of the whole army, and yet in the middle of two wars he has the free time to dedicate himself to some random young recent graduate from the academy and put himself under our command. Okay, well, whatever furthers the story. Like many RPG protagonists, we're a silent character. Our character has almost no actual dialogue in the game, no in-game dialogue. It's only suggested we say a couple things in some of the Chronicle intro text blocks that appear. And so characters like Gerardo are around largely to serve as interpreting our wishes and commands, as it were, which kind of comes up next Chronicle. So if you're playing casually, and you're playing for the first time, getting General Gerardo at this point is pretty good, because he's actually a knight, which is a high level class you wouldn't have access to yet. And Knight is very high stats. It's one of the more advanced classes. You wouldn't normally have access to it. And level 15 is pretty high level. Most of our characters are not anywhere near level 15 yet. Now I'm building this one up to serve as a interference point. Now this is our Soulcalibur character here, Rock. Rock's secondary outfit is one of the best. This is great. As we prepare to fight Elephant Head Rock. This is actually an outfit he's had before a couple of times, and it still just makes me laugh every time I see it, no matter which game it's in.
Final battle. Fight.
Got something in your trunk?
It's over.
Rock is a gladiator, which is another high-level class with a lot of hit points. So he's pretty tough, but very easily dispatched by our Swordmaster. By the way, our licensed character here is Kenshin Homura from the Rurouni Kenshin series, although I can't give him the wild hair style that he actually has in the regular manga or anime. So this is looking more like the Kenshin Homura from the Samurai X movies. Okay, sometimes trying to swap between battles quickly without wasting time, or getting units who shouldn't be involved in wasting time because they lose their missions, their orders, is pretty rough. So Rock's the only one in this mission. That leaves us with, how many have we done so far? We have 1 and 4, 2 and 5, 1 and 6, 1 and 7. So that's 5 so far. We have 18 to go. You annoy me.
You lack grace of any kind.
One of the neat things about the classes is that there are a couple of different ways to determine voices in this game. It's actually pretty neat. There are technically only 4 per gender, but they have a wide variety of things that they say that change the intent of your dialogue and what lines you use based on essentially your alignment, which is determined by the equipment you give to your characters. So whether they're feisty and like to fight, whether they're brutal killers, whether they're sulky, dark-hearted assassins, or whether they're reluctant fighters. And so that determines the dialogue that they give during combat, and even like their top dialogue and the things that they say while making their moves and stuff. Similar to the later games with the create a soul functions, they all do similar things. But one of the particular things about Soulcalibur 3 is that because you have to assign a class to them, each character also has a end battle dialogue that they will use because of their class, regardless of what their actual alignment is. And some of them are pretty amusing. The usual dancer voice that I give to my dancer lead will often say coquettishly at the end of the battle, "Did you enjoy my dance?" And some of them just come out of nowhere and seem weird, but it's pretty interesting little unique feature of this game. So this is our first opportunity to experience ice and wonderful ice physics. Now luckily, I spin to win usually is okay on ice, but yeah, you can. This is actually going pretty badly, except that I'm not getting hit. Okay, there we go.
It's not shameful.
It is really, you can just see this. This is so awful. I hate ice physics. I hate ice so much, and we're not done with it. We have a lot of bad ice battles coming up. Oh, please, Juno, be nice. Yes, good Juno, good girl. Keep it up, keep it up. Ah, nice. Okay, that's a good fight. This is usually the first time I kind of go in expecting to lose, and it can be a really rough fight to die, just because of bad luck and sliding off the edge and such things. Again, another reason I'm glad that it doesn't result in an automatic death in this particular game mode. They can be so awful. Each character death generally casts around half a minute because of loading times and etc., etc. And usually more if it's before the... It's half a minute, about 30 seconds, and if it's at the final boss, and it's usually a minute if it's before that, because of the time that's wasted. You take so many hits to take down a stronghold, and if one character is regenerating and not alive to contribute, that makes it take even more time to do it. So usually it's about a minute if time lost for each character. If doesn't really matter if it happens earlier than like the next to last fight. It just because you have enough time to recover and come back into the battle. So now the Halthus leader here retreated after we defeated him in the last stronghold, and suddenly it is implied that Mooncalf is killing you. He's suddenly been killed by this woman who appears named Mooncalf, and she tells us that this country needs to be destroyed, but she isn't going to allow us to be the ones to do it. So this crazy revenge lady, we find out from dialogue later on, used to be a royalty in Haltese, back when it was a kingdom, before it had a French Revolution style rebellion, and all the nobles were killed or exiled. And she was one of those nobles. Her daughter was taken from her, and so now she's plotting the overthrow of Haltese. So that was the one and only chronicle in the game where we fight the Haltese Republic, because now all of a sudden the associates of this woman Mooncalf come rolling in and wiping out the Haltese capital. Apparently, this new threat that's come out of nowhere, called Meleta, or Melita perhaps, depending on how you want to pronounce it, since nobody ever says the word. It's a mystery. But it's apparently one of the provinces of the Republic, but suddenly it's gained a huge amount of backing, and its governor has declared himself a king of a new kingdom and is claiming the rest of the Haltese Republic as part of that kingdom. So now that it's in the middle of a rebellion, we could just go and mind our own business and leave, right? Naturally, that would be the smart thing to do. But Gerardo asks us that, and then implies that as a soft-hearted commander, the orders we've given our troops are to go and rescue these Haltese soldiers. So that is our mission. Now, we actually have a unique loss condition in this map. We cannot allow 3 Haltese soldiers to die, and it's going to look very scary because I'm going to allow 2 of them to die. This mission has caused me a lot of heartache over the couple of years of my speedrunning this because it's rather complicated. It's actually been a problem chronicle for me even when I played casually because I wanted to save all the soldiers, but it's really hard to do. At least it was hard to do based on the way I tried. But as it turns out, the AI is not programmed to attack the Haltese soldiers who are involved in combat here. They will when they meet them, but the people they're trying to get to are actually my characters. And so when I try to... I've tried many different tactics of starting points on this chronicle, and I've usually tried to be near the front so I could get to blow through the enemies as fast as possible. And then I found out that all of the enemies were attacking, were heading towards me and leaving the Haltese soldiers completely alone. Which was fine from a perspective of I can't lose the speedrun, I can't lose the chronicle to them killing off the Haltese soldiers, but it also means that I had to fight an awful lot of enemies, which wastes time. And I played around with a lot of different things, trying to manipulate the AI so that I fight as few as possible. And I actually just came up with this strat today as I was practicing for this this run. And it's going to look scary, but I've already tested it, so I know it works. So I'm purposefully, by starting all my characters in the back there, dancers. Golly, a dancer is giving me more trouble. Okay, on with that.
I don't have time to play games.
So, by starting way back on the far end like I did, I actually manipulated most of the enemies to go charging in to meet and start fighting the Haltese soldiers instead of me. Now, if all 3 of these Haltese soldiers being attacked were to die, I would instantly lose the mission, which is bad. But oh yeah, that's right. I can go all the way. I'm giving orders as if I wasn't doing. You go there. Okay, I think everybody's going right now. 1 up. Okay. Now, if all 3 were to die, I would end up losing the Chronicle, but as long as only 2 die, I don't have to save the soldiers, I just have to make sure they don't die. And so this one guy here is not doing a whole lot of damage to Canon, so Canon will end up surviving, which is great. Now, there are 5 characters, 3 of them are named, 2 of them are not named. Aelion is the leader of them there. She just died, but she's going to join me even though I let her die because she's the story character. Larage, who is the one I actually saved, he will end up joining my party. Not that it really matters. And Canon here would join my party if I were the rescuer. But I don't need to because I need to power this up, though. This is going to be slightly scary. I should have fortified this. Totally brand new strat. Sometimes that makes it pretty good. This will keep the enemies from getting to me, though. But I have plenty of leeway. So the reason one of my characters went up here, though, is because this is our Soulcalibur character on this map. Setsuga, who was introduced in 3 and came back in 4, but that was her only appearance so far in the series. So she is the most minor of Soulcalibur characters, probably. Her style returned in Soulcalibur 5, but it was actually being used by Alpha Patroclus. Patroclus with the fully empowered Soulcalibur. So there's some backstory things implying that she trained him, met him at one point and taught him to fight a little bit, and that's why he adopts that as his style when he gets the full Soulcalibur. But basically it was just their excuse to reuse the fighting style without creating a new one entirely for Patroclus's unique fighting style. Here's Mooncalf again. Now you may notice that Mooncalf's weapon is actually the, or her style at least, is the same as Luna's, and that is intended because a little bit of mini spoiler. Dialogue in the game that exists seems to indicate that Luna is actually Mooncalf's daughter, who was taken from her when the Haltese Republic fell 20-ish so years ago. Luna remembers nothing about this, doesn't know, but Mooncalf's one desire is to get revenge and see her daughter again, and when she is finally killed, not by us, her last word is muttering Luna's name. Gerardo actually picks up on this, though, and okay, here's our Setsuga battle, just in time.
Decisive battle.
And if you take Gerardo into the final fight against Luna in Chronicle 11, before the battle starts, he'll actually have dialogue with her, asking if she knows a woman named Mooncalf, and Luna doesn't remember anything about her real mother. She's like, what on earth are you talking about? I don't know that. Fight already. But,
Final battle.
no spoilers yet. We'll see it at the end later on, but it's something that he takes an interest in, this story about the pair. Now, Setsuga is supposed to be a foreigner. I really like this outfit largely because they decided to make her blonde, because Setsuga is supposed to be a foreigner who was found and raised in Japan, an orphan foreigner girl. But she's supposed to appear distinctly, non-Japanese, but in her regular geisha outfit, her Player 1 character, she actually looks very much like a Japanese geisha. You wouldn't, if, especially, considering how semi-anime style, the characters don't particularly look that racially based. It's, kind of hard to tell, but with her blonde, it's a little bit easier to tell, oh, she's actually supposed to be, she is actually of different racial stock. Probably not necessary to send him, but every little bit helps, because it looks kind of scary, like I might end up losing, but it's going to take more than 40 hits. 3 characters and 40 hits will do over 480 damage, or even 3 of them would do 300, no, 3 characters would do 480 damage, so we're going to take this easily.
Decisive battle.
All right. That last super safe triangle that represents the Haltese soldier on the left there is the safest character of all.
Battle 1. Fight.
So here's Heil. Heil, we will fight 3 battles in a row. He's very annoying. His AI tends to be really good, and he has a lot better stats than he should based on his class and level.
Time to play games.
Usually his AI is pretty mean too, but sometimes he can actually be taken out easily. Once you get him down, he's easy enough to combo. And that new strat actually did save me a lot of time on this Chronicle. That's real nice. So now, the leader of these Haltese soldiers, Aelion, has a conversation with us and is like, "You're crazy. You fought just to save us? What kind of madman are you? This wasn't your fight. But oh well, since you saved our lives, we'll return the favor." So now I have Larage and Aelion added to my party. We're So orders from the Emperor come. He wants us to continue fighting against Mileta, but Mileta has just signed an accord with Dalkia, and so they've sent reinforcements to us. So now we finally get 5 characters. 1, 2, 2. This is another one that I've had a lot of trouble with trying to route properly. The thing about this Chronicle is that it's another one where I have to defeat all enemies, which makes it a little bit trickier. Hopefully this works out. I might have messed up slightly and lost 2 characters' orders, but we'll see. Playing around on a couple of other modes, I found some new things in the AI that a couple of my more recent runs I've tried to manipulate, not entirely successfully. So.
Final battle. Fight.
This, of course, is Chrono, the titular hero from Chrono Trigger. He's one of the easiest ones for me to make and what I've always enjoyed making a whole lot. He also says has more dialogue in my games of Soulcalibur 3 than he has over the course of his own game, naturally, since he is one of those aforementioned silent protagonists. I sometimes wish that you could actually make characters silent and have no voice so that you could more easily do those kinds of character styles. Oh, you were the one who was supposed to go. Oh well. That's hilarious. You didn't lose your orders, but they were the wrong orders. Oops. Oh well. Okay, so we have all these yellow guys in addition to the green guys, the green Mileta, because that's the Dalkian reinforcements. And one of those reinforcements is Luna, along with her full Cluster Pemdo, as we're about to see. She's waiting right now, but as soon as I take the stronghold, she's going to come out and attack us, starting right now-ish. Once I get through this stronghold taken. Dialogue from all of our guide people. We hear a little bit about the relationships between these guys, but we don't care. We're going to fight. Yeah. We'll let Ichigo, hero of Bleach, deal with these 5. Now, this is interesting to note, though. Wasn't Abelia supposed to be finishing off Dalkia? Didn't we utterly decimate their army? Why couldn't she clean up the scraps without us? How useless is that woman? Well, Abelia's our best friend from the academy, but unfortunately she's totally useless, so we have to keep that in mind. We can't go help her yet, but we can't forget about her.
It's over. It's over. It's over.
All the Cluster Pemdo are pretty easy, generally. Again, they sometimes can go super aggressive AI, but especially without their stronghold missions, they are not much to fear. Go out. Thank you. In addition to doing a lot of damage and finishing the fights faster, ring-outs actually happen to speed up the battle ending by about half a second. It's kind of a weird little thing, but if I get a lot of ring-outs, that in addition adds up over time. It's pretty insignificant just compared with the loss of time there, but it's kind of a weird thing how that happens, but I'm not sure why it is. Even if an enemy is defeated by damage and then falls out of the ring afterwards, it will actually speed up the loading of the experience giving end of battle screen, or the next battle if it isn't the last. Well, yeah, it is the experience screen. Regardless, end of the fight experience screen will come just a second faster, or half a second. Not something I've ever actually timed with like a computer or anything, any kind of tasking and all that, but it is something that just from the feel of having played this game 1,000 times and gotten so that was a good early Luna. It's just something that I can feel and notice in it. I can't complete actions as quickly. The amount of time that I spend doing my taunt or my soul charge will actually end half a second earlier. Okay, so we've defeated them. Now we have to defeat... This is probably the reason... There's usually a reason why when you're given a mission, storyline based, actually, for when you're given a mission like defeat all enemies. And in this case, they don't want you to cheese the game out and not fight Luna and her Cluster Pemdo. So they require you to defeat all enemies just to ensure that that's part of the battle. Especially since they are of different classes. Now it's already there. Okay, that's good. This should work out great, actually. Good, all 5. When I was testing this a little bit earlier, one of those characters, for some reason, decided to leave the stronghold, and that ended up causing me to have to wait an extra amount of time for him to reach the main stronghold, but all 5 decided to stay here this time.
Battle 1. Fight. Knockout.
It's over.
Our character here, Yae, is one of the side characters of a recent anime that's been forced upon me
Fight.
while in another world with my smartphone. I was trying to figure out a samurai girl from something non-video game that I could make, and just thought, and since she was on my mind, I decided to give her a shot.
Battle
It's kind of
3.
hard to make some characters sometimes. Later on, it's a little bit easier because they give you objects that you can add to emulate certain kinds of hairstyles or hair adornments and things. Soulcalibur 3, as the base code character creation method, doesn't have all those options. So I have to do a couple of weird things, like add cattails to emulate the type of big ribbon type of hair, but it's just kind of what you have. You go with what you have. Overall, I've still been pretty impressed with the kind of characters that I can make. I can't make super detailed licensed characters, like Superman and Batman are really hard. Although, my sister did have me once make a Christian Bale-style Bruce Wayne.
I'll take you anytime
So
you want.
literally Bruce Wayne outside of his Batman costume, but in the mold of Christian Bale. But I couldn't make an actual cowl Batman or an actual Superman with his S or whatever. Okay, those 5 defeated. Now we just gotta wait for that last very slow knight to finally make it into the main stronghold, and that's the last battle on this mission. That'll be pretty nice. Knights are so aggravatingly slow. I can't imagine that anybody has ever tried actually using a knight on any of the Chronicles because they are just so slow moving about. It's just absolutely painful. Okay, you can speed things up a little bit now. I don't send everybody right away because, oh, they'll end up doing it before he reaches anyway. Oh well. Simply because I do, once again, I want all 4 to be in there at once, so I can fight all 4 at once and I don't have to worry about extra loading times, because that wastes a lot of time waiting for this loading screen. You may have noticed there are no Soulcalibur characters on this map. They don't have any, because since the objective is to defeat all enemies, they never want you to be forced to fight a Soulcalibur character. They are designed as optional super bosses.
It's not.
So that's one of the reasons why I find this appealing, because it, especially if you speedrun it normally, which nobody does except me, but if you did, you would never have to really fight the Soulcalibur characters. But this forces us to see them all and fight them. It actually makes the endgame a little bit safer too, because of all the extra levels I get from fighting those characters. So it's the last couple of Chronicles are a little less painful.
Battle 3.
So all unblockable would be scary, but since I'm all out aggressive and I don't worry about blocking anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not good for the speedrun to try blocking and being defensive. And just very slightly, the AI seems to understand that if it were properly aggressive, it would be unstoppable. Tends to be slightly less aggressive when it has all unblockable. Because it would be very easy to cheese out and make this an impossible to win. So we're not even halfway done, and I already have 50 wins on my main character, so that shows just how far this particular one goes, and that was super excellent. This is a great gold split. With the death on 7 or on 6 it was. My 5, 6, and 7 splits were all rather rough. But 8, I gained back a lot of time, and I'm going to gain additional time right here. That's a gold split that has me now ahead of schedule. That's really neat. Glad I'm actually keeping track of the splits outside the stream. So Chronicle 10, my least favorite Chronicle, at least on SC%. No, it's still not my least favorite. My second least favorite. Most people's least favorite. I actually don't mind it nearly as much. There's just one problem. And the problem is my personal Soulcalibur waifu, my favorite Soulcalibur character, Sung Mina. She is the Soulcalibur character on this map, and she is the worst of all the Soulcalibur characters to fight. Not because she is inherently good. Sung Mina's generally been a mid-tier character throughout Soulcalibur's history anyway, but simply because I am really messing up. This might help though. We'll see. It's a minor thing in any case. But, well, I'll get a minute. So we're charging in towards the main central part as we take on Miletta's capital, but this is where Sung Mina is. Ice. Yeah. And Sung Mina's AI is actually programmed to take full advantage of the ice, which makes her the single most dangerous and annoying and hard to beat Soulcalibur character. Nothing else about her is really bad, but just because she's on ice, it's a wide open circular arena with no walls to sit against, and she constantly uses moderately slow but widely swinging long-range attacks that even if you block will send you flying backwards because of the ice physics. You're gonna see it in action. It's wonderful. Or not. It's sarcastically very wonderful. And I have horrible luck here. So, no, it's actually the other half. Okay, that's hilarious. So this horse here, cavalry on the right, almost always rushes back to defend, while that other cavalry that was here on the left almost always charges forward past my guys and I never have to worry about it. When I get really lucky, and it's a pseudo-luck kind of thing, both will end up charging back. When I get really lucky, both of them will charge forward like that and I won't have to fight them. I'll only have to fight two guys here. When I get really unlucky, both will run back to defend. But usually if one does, which is what happens most of the time, it's Anoretta the Knight instead of Oryx the Assassin. Kind of a weird thing there, but whatever. This is Demuth, the king of Miletta, the guy who was manipulated into declaring rebellion. But the dialogue that happened pre-Chronicle seems to indicate that the mysterious bandit we met way back in Chronicle 3, remember him? He just told Demuth that his job is over and that he, Chester, is the real king. But then we suddenly show up to ruin his coronation. Heil is loyal to his real king. He is upset that Chester would declare this thing, but first they have to deal with us, so after we defeat these guys, we have to, Heil 3 and Demuth, we have to deal with Chester and all of his personal loyal elite guards, which is dangerous looking and kind of annoying because of the the number of guys we have to defeat, but not particularly dangerous. This is going pretty well.
Battle 3. Fight.
When I first started running this game, I was using only Sword Masters. I knew the Dancer was super powerful from my many hours I played of this casually. I have sunk so many hours into this game, though, you have no idea. But this fight was really rough with the... Look at this. This fight was really rough with the Sword Masters because Heil is so good at blocking their shoulder charge. And so I finally decided, let me give Dancer a try. And at first, I had a couple of losses. It wasn't looking real good on my times. I wasn't convinced the Dancer was that great. And then I went to this battle and that happened.
Very well then.
The stun lock happens. The horrible thing about this particular stronghold is the mission is offense down. Or in other words, defense up is what they should have just said. The defenders have huge defense boosts. You do very little damage. You saw how much chip damage I was doing and how long it took to take down that stupid Heil character who is not a super high defense. He has a much higher defense than he should anyway. His stats are really insanely large. Nothing you can look at and examine, but just you can tell. Any other swordsman, gladiator would take half as many hits to go down. But the offense is the main problem with that. Okay, I want Primrose because she is still the best to deal with ice. Now, I also, however, have to deal with the guys that come charging in. Now, one of the other things about this square grid-based map system that I mentioned earlier is that because the map is grid-based, only 5 units can fit into a particular grid. So, All of these guys who are still behind there cannot enter this square and attack my stronghold until these 5 are defeated. You can fight more than 5 guys at once if they're coming from multiple angles. So if the stronghold was surrounded and being attacked by 5 guys on every side, I could fight up to 20 guys possibly. The max I've ever really fought, realistically anywhere, is 9. But theoretically you could do up to 20 in a 4 square area like that. But since I can only fight 5 at once, I can't. It's pointless to wait for more enemies to arrive. It's easier just to fight the 5, wait for the other 3, because they just stand there doing nothing anyway.
Battle 2. Fight.
Kind of unfortunate, because if I could let all 8 fight at once, that would again, you know, reduce the number of loads by 1 and save about half a minute. Oh, come on! How did he save himself? That was looking really good for a minute. I love the names on these named characters. I really like what they did in that there are a large number of generic characters you fight who are lower level. They just have the name of their kingdom, like Maletta, Grandolph, Dalkia, and they have the same uniform, you know, or one of 2 uniforms based on whether they're male or female. But then you have a number of unique characters and unique outfits who have specific names. Even the ones that don't have any actual dialogue or don't appear, you know, they're higher level, and it shows that these are special characters.
Battle 4.
So you can tell the elite soldiers from the basic ones. And adds a little bit of extra flavor to it all. This is going extremely well. It's usually not hard. The shoulder charge is very dominating, and even the hits I take, I regenerate the life back really fast. But even so, got a couple of fast ring outs in the first couple guys, and otherwise I've been... Just these, they haven't been interrupting me nearly as badly as they often do. That could have been bad. Okay, I said that, and of course something happens. Alright, do this. By the way, this is one of my favorite dialogue for using this character. Did I do it? A lot of meme-worthy dialogue from my characters when I spam their abilities. Alright, round 1 over. Now for round 2. Takes a lot longer though because they're knights. Oh, there are actually 3 there. It's hard to tell, I think. I think there's 3. Chikage Aldo says. Yes, there they are. 2 of them sitting on top of each other. Sungmina. So boring. Yeah, you sure look easy to beat. Okay, time to see if Sungmina's gonna be nice to me. Her secondary outfit's pretty cool. She has short hair though, which I'm not sure how much I like.
1. Fight.
Oh darn it. Come on. There we go. Be nice. Oh no! Sungmina, the worst.
Fight.
One of the safest things to do often is throws. Oh geez. There we go. Whew.
It's not shameful to be weak. Well, it's
Oh boy,
time to move
that
on.
was scary, but 1 death up through Chronicle 10 after defeating Sungmina isn't too bad. Individual fights when certain enemies get rough, even if I don't lose, can end up being the biggest change in whether I gain or lose time. Okay, let's fight these 3 already. It's best to send all my characters, except for the one defending that, over to take that as soon as possible, and also to serve as backup and Kei Sung-mina is super duper awful.
Battle 1. Fight.
Did I do it? Goodbye. Did I do it? Did I do it? Did I do it? Goodbye. Did I do it? Did I do it?
I think you did it. This stronghold, by the way, is one of the ones that
Battle 2. Fight.
does not go down in its level even when it's taken, so that's kind of the convenient thing about it. It serves, once you've taken it, it's kind of a save point halfway through the game. Any of your guys that are defeated will regenerate here because it's the closest level 3 stronghold. Makes it pretty nice because of all the powerful enemies who could end up defeating some of your characters. Also, it seems to be slightly bugged. I'm not sure if it's a bug or an intent, but since it is now my stronghold, it should not be reducing the damage I do, but my characters do, even when defending this, do a lot less damage than they do, that they would be normally. Or maybe it's just the stats of these guys make it appear that way, but it really seems like I'm doing a lot less damage than I would to equivalent characters. Again, I haven't really data mined this game. It's not one of my strengths, and isn't a popular enough game for me to call on other people to do it, but it's just one of those impressions that I get. I'm not sure how much it affects me either, because I just don't take enough hits. Okay, Kierkegaard, who is standing there, is the #1 right-hand man for Chester, and he is one of the characters who is designed to... He's a non-cheese boss. He doesn't let you fight him in the field, so he's going to start combat automatically with me once I reach him. Which is kind of convenient because it actually saves a small amount of time since I don't have to open the battle screen to start to fight myself. Beating this Chronicles sub 130 would be super... It isn't a mark I've hit yet, but it's a mark that I would like to if I can get a good enough early game.
Ring out. Fight.
Did I do it?
Kierkegaard tends to be pretty tough usually. That was actually a really good Kierkegaard fight. A ring out and only one hit from him. His, the Grieve Edge is one of the unique weapons they made in this game. They never brought it back for anyone, which is kind of sad because it's one of the neater weapon styles, I think. I really like the look of it. They're totally unrealistic and impractical in reality, like, which I say, there's a lot of that in Soulcalibur, yes, but a good portion of the weapons are realistic, and the attacks and moves that they use were based on actual weapon techniques from those weapon styles historically. But it's one of the ones that, like Ivy's Chain Whip, has no place in reality, but it's still really, really cool. Kierkegaard's in particular are really neat. Now, one of the things I haven't mentioned is that I'm kind of technically running a New Game Plus. I'm the only guy who runs this, so I get to make the rules for it. And I decided I didn't want to try deleting my save data before every time I wanted to speedrun this game again. So I went ahead and... decided for the base game to use my fully unlocked data, because there's a huge difference between a fully unlocked game and one that you would do from complete scratch. And again, the only way to do it is to either pull out your memory card if you don't have one, or to delete it every time you want to do it in a game, which I have realized I can just do by removing my memory card and not having any save data to load, but it's not something I like doing anyway. But this gives me access to all these skills. Otherwise, it would take a while to unlock all of it. When you play this game for the first time, you only have access to 6 classes. The 6 most basic and weakest classes.
Surprise.
And here's Chester. Every time you meet him, he has a new outfit.
I must protect this country.
He tells us the plot of
I have this
everything.
brilliant plan of pitting Grandal and Dalkia against one another, and then rise to power during the resulting chaos. But because of your unexpected meddling, my plan is in ruins. You will pay dearly for this.
Battle 1.
Okay. Kind of expected that to happen. Chester's usually pretty easy, but enemies tend to get a lot more aggressive, and just outthink you, or able to read your moves and now use them when you get really low. They,
Battle 2.
I don't know, just to get super bloodlust in their eyes. But anyway, you may notice that I get gold at the end of every mission. Every action you do in every game you play in Soulcalibur 3 in any game mode gives you gold. It doesn't matter for me right now because it's maxed out, but use that gold in these shops with the shopkeeper girls to buy weapons for your characters to use, pieces of armor to dress them up in, or item unlocks of various other things like illustrations or more advanced character classes and things once you've done the requirements to unlock those as being purchasable. Death cost me a little bit of time there, but I'm still not on that pace. But some of the some of these characters who are unique and have unique weapons, like that Manslayer dagger that that Chester was just using, or the or in particular the Grave Edges that Kierkegaard was using, will be unlocked once you defeat them in Soulcalibur combat. Each of these Quetzalpemdo have a unique weapon, and after we defeat them, we would unlock that the first time we played it as well. Of course, I have everything unlocked, so it doesn't matter. It's one of the things that also saves time, because that's a lot of unlocked screens that I get to skip since I'm playing on a pseudo New Game Plus. One of the other reasons I don't actively say it's New Game Plus, though, is because there is literally, you can play Chronicles of the Sword over again with the same party, keeping all your levels after you've beaten it once. Not a lot of difference in the game. You get to skip the tutorial and that's it. But it is an actual New Game Plus, so Quetzalpemdo, we just defeated Moletta. Boy, we can take a break now, right? Oh, are we forgetting something? Oh yes, wait, it's Abilia. We left her in Dalkia. What happened? We saw that the Dalkians weren't exactly utterly defeated, since they were able to help out against, help Moletta with us for a while, but so now we go rushing to defeat. We meet up with Abilia, and she's stonewalled at these strongholds with, once again, Luna and her Quetzalpemdo.
Well, it's time to move on.
Lupi declares herself the Flames of Hell. She has this unique Blaze Cleaver spear. Each of the Quetzalpemdo this time have a unique mission on their stronghold that is actually a combination of two other missions. Many of these missions we've never even seen before. Cruel Sword is the name of the mission for that one, and it is a combination of All Unblockable, which we've seen, and Blast, which we haven't seen. Blast does increased knockback effects. It seems bugged in her tower, though. She doesn't see it. Her weapon doesn't seem to do extra knockback with most of its attacks. And it doesn't matter because she's usually the easiest AI and we kill her really quickly anyway. Next is Sacred Field of Healdo, the Waters of Origin. It is a combination of Ice and Cure. The Cure is kind of a just annoying, negligent effect. It can sometimes slightly elongate a fight if I'm having trouble landing a finishing blow, but generally doesn't heal enough to make a difference. Ice, of course, is a problem. Luckily, Healdo is generally really bad AI. She also has her unique weapon. Once again, the Leviathan ones here are one of the coolest wave swords. And again, the wave swords are another one of the weapon styles I wish they'd bring back, because it's actually pretty cool. And there we go. That was nice. This is usually the easiest ice fight in the game, quite honestly, so good that it went according to plan. Next up is Eloa, the Winds of Creation. She has Holy Wings as the name of her stronghold mission, and it is a combination of Whirlwind and Aerial Wind. Whirlwind, of course, I've talked about before. This is a pretty powerful one, so it can be moderately annoying. It's the second worst Whirlwind in the game. Aerial Wind, though, is useless. It actually causes knock-up effects that knock you into the air to cause you to fly much higher up in the air and then float down slowly. So it can cause you to lose time and be annoying that way, but the problem is, for Eloa, it's not, the good thing is, for us, that her weapon style has two attacks in it that actually cause a knock-up effect, and she never uses either of them. Very, very rarely she'll use one of them, so it's like once in 1,000 battles you'll see it. So if we're lucky today, since it's a marathon, if we are lucky, she'll actually hit me with it, and so you can see it in action. We haven't encountered Aerial Wind yet. We likely won't unless I decide to make this truly all bosses and fight end for the kicks and giggles. Elua is being extremely bad, but she is not doing an uplift attack, so whatever. Whirlwind pushed me out of the way, so I couldn't get her again. Whirlwind, very annoying. This Whirlwind is being super awful this time, but otherwise the fight wasn't that bad. She tried to do an awful lot of grabs when I was crouching, which was the nice thing to make up for the fact that the Whirlwind kept pushing me away. There's an even worse thing than Whirlwind that we'll be encountering in a little bit, though. Now comes the worst of all of them. AG is the Earth of Foundation. And she has Impregnable. Impregnable is a combination of Quake, which we technically have seen before, but not in this speedrun because I've avoided it, and Guardian Force. Guardian Force is far and away the very worst mission in the game. Yes, it is worse than Ice and Ice Physics. It is super duper awful because it means that you are immune to everything. You take damage if you get hit, but you don't suffer from block stun or hit stun or guard break stun or any kind of stun. If you're blocking, you won't take damage and the weapons will pass through you. If you are not guarding, you will take damage, but the weapons will pass through you. So while my weapons are going through her, she will punish me, like so. This is Omega awful. In addition, I have to worry about that Quake every 3 seconds. If I'm in the air, Quake won't affect me, so I try to use this ability, and it looks like this might be not bad. I've done a lot of damage to her already. Luckily, she has a weapon that damages her when she hits, but unfortunately, it doesn't affect her when she's... Okay, I'm not going to... If I get lucky, I can beat her without losing the character, but that's pretty rare. But I did a lot of damage, so if I lose 2 characters, that's bad. I'm almost certain not to lose 2, though. I did so much damage there.
Battle 2. Fight.
And yes, the countdown keeps from where it was at the end of the last battle, so that can throw off your timing if you're trying to rely on that. Luckily, her stats are awful, and she has a weapon that damages herself. Again, a pretty cool two-handed sword overall. But Guardian Force is so awful. So this is actually, especially with the Quake added on top of it, we'll see Guardian Force 2 more times, and it's still awful. The characters that we're fighting are going to be worse than AG, but there's no Quake attached, which adds its own element of frustration to that battle. So that is actually the worst mission in the entire game. I hate Guardian Force. They reintroduced Guardian Force to a degree back in Soulcalibur 6, a couple missions in Libra of Souls. Thank goodness. Number 1, they are optional, so you won't see them in a speedrun, and number 2, they're not as bad. If you do, they only get to ignore minor hits. But powerful hits, especially like most lifting attacks, will still affect them, so you just have to rely on that and not, innate combos. But golly, Guardian Force is so horrible. So I didn't bother doing anything because it actually, my characters do enough damage to the stronghold to take it before my other character regenerates, so you just continue on. But I pulled back those fights, the Guardian Force fights, are the main reason I can't field a party of dancers. Because dancers with their stats and inability to combo lock with spin to win would do nothing against AG and the other Guardian Force characters. They would be dominated. So the sword, that's why I pulled my main character back. There's no reason to sacrifice her for nothing. So Luna has a new outfit. She has Soulcalibur. Yes, she's wielding Soulcalibur. What the heck? We don't know. They don't really explain it. So apparently Soul Edge and Soulcalibur exist in this universe. The introduction to the game mode kind of suggests that, but they don't really explain where it came from, how Luna got it, how the end boss gets his hands on Soul Edge, but he has it. It just kind of mentions them and is like, oh, we have to deal with Soul Edge now. And, oh, Luna has Soulcalibur, that's kind of important. So, but this is the last fight against Luna. Not the last we'll see of her, semi-spoilers. We will see her again, but not as an enemy. That was a pretty good Chronicle 11, though, overall. I'm actually on a PB pace, with my new strategies at 8 and 9 helping out. Or 9 and 10, rather. So, final fight against We're in the capital of Dalkia now, and this is the complicated one. I need a 2 and 3, otherwise I need both at 4. That's right. Been a little bit since I was since I've done this on SC%. Okay, you stay back. So 2 Soulcalibur characters on this map. There were none, of course, on the last map because it's only 5 strongholds. There's nowhere to go but straight down the path. It's totally unchanged no matter what game mode I'm doing or whatever, except who I have access to if I'm doing some sort of meme category. I've come up with all sorts of extra categories for this game because of how much I love it and how much time I've spent on it. Things like MCO, or main character only, where I only get to make one created character and otherwise have to use the characters that are given to me. That's about 15 to 20 minutes slower than regular any percent because your characters aren't nearly as good as Swordmasters. And oh, holy cow, they're all gathering there. Well, that's not particularly bad. So, on any percent, I'd have more of my people focused in the middle. Here, of course, I've spread them out because I have 2 Soulcalibur characters to deal with here. Raphael is in that spot, and Cassandra is in that spot. Why those 2 are together, I don't know, but they're some of the more minor-ish characters. Why on earth did you do that? I was actually glad when I saw the 5 flash, and then immediately he left, so, okay, whatever. It's really hard to avoid fighting all the enemies, unfortunately, especially since they charge towards your main stronghold. Anytime you lose your main stronghold, that is always a failed mission, and you have to restart the Chronicle. So, there are a lot of Chronicles where I have to do special things to protect my main stronghold.
Battle 2, fight!
It's over. Where are you going?
Oh, nice. That was a very, very precise ring out. Wasn't expecting that. That saved a bit of time, since these guys have such high defense.
It's over. It's over. Where are you going?
Fight!
It's over.
Knockout!
Except for ring outs, nothing will generally extend the time the battle goes on, except for grabbing an enemy if they are just staggered when they go KO. This weapon, by the way, the staff, if you've never seen it before, yeah, the staff does really absurd things. It's actually a pretty good weapon. It's got a couple of good abilities you can use, although it doesn't have any good regenerating weapons.
It looks like
But you can just do the funkiest stuff with enlarging that pole. It's this little stick and stretches to a staff, full-size staff for some attacks, and stretches into a giant tree trunk for other attacks in the most hilarious fashion. Not one that I really want to see again, but it is just amusing at least. Another nice option I'd like to see in an HD remaster of this game would be a option to turn off death animations. That would save me a few minutes at least, probably at least 15 minutes for the number of guys I have to see scream out in pain, and then fall over. Okay, and this is moderately risky, but so much faster than pulling back or defending. I really need to try doing this with not my main character though, because it is safer, even if not quite as fast. But it's just one of those bad habits I have. I haven't put a huge amount of thought into which characters I put where generally. I just kind of let whoever go. Because the experience isn't super necessary. The stats do make a difference, especially end game, but a few stats here or there generally don't. And it doesn't make nearly as much difference as it would in your more traditional RPGs. So now, if these people manage to gang up on Primrose and kill her, it's going to be really hard for me to not lose this Chronicle, which is going to be about a 5-minute time loss, but that's okay.
Battle 2, fight!
Again, it would be almost impossible for them to beat my Swordmaster simply because of the life regeneration of the number of defense and hit points I have, for one thing, is quite a buffer. But in addition, the life I get back from the lifesteal of the Murasame katana is unbelievable. But they're being very nice to me. This is going quite well. Any of them could still just dominate me, but...
Fight.
Oh, that's bad. I did the right thing. I did not do the right thing. Good. Okay, there we go. Safe here. The Chinese sword is one of my... That's the weapon that Jerry here has. It's actually one of my favorite weapons in the game to play with. It's essentially Huang's style from the earlier Soulcalibur games, and the one that he uses as a special guest character in this game. But it is not very good for speedrunning. Again, it's one of my favorites to play. It's just fun, but I have found no good abilities for it.
I had to win this one.
On the contrary, however, the AI is really, really good with it. It tends to be very aggressive, do a lot of strong combo attacks and mid-range focused attacks that will hit me while I'm spinning. Just super annoying to deal with. Okay, but with all them defeated, that makes this... The rest of this is pretty smooth sailing. Cassandra and Raphael, despite being dangerous conditions, dangerous classes, or at least tough classes, are not really dangerous. Cassandra is a Sage, which is a heavily defense-focused advanced class. It's got okay attack, but she's not particularly dangerous. She can annoy me a lot by doing a lot of throws, but as I mentioned, throws are actually the least dangerous thing in this mode, since they do not scale damage with your attack power in Soulcalibur 3. So, Raphael, on the other hand, is a knight, and knights are, again, one of the most powerful classes. Except for Swordmaster, they have the best defense and hit points in the game. And he's level 60, but he is not a particularly great AI, not super aggressive or highly damaging. An instant ring out is a really, really good start for Cassandra. She started out really nice, got annoying at the end, as she tends to, but that's pretty usual.
Don't hold back next time.
So that's Cassandra out. Her secondary outfit I don't like as much. It looks a little... It's kind of... I guess it kind of has a more realistic semi-warrior woman to it. Not nearly enough covering, but not bright and colored. It's like generic-looking brown type stuff, which you'd have in leather, hide, constructed armor types. But I'm used to both her and her sister Sophia being having their blue colors, and I'll get more into that when we meet Sophia. Because of her secondary outfit. And he's going, of course. One of the things that you might think of is that it would be faster to be closer to an event that's about to happen, because it zooms in on strongholds being taken or a battle starting. But actually, the way the game works, you can just see there how it slowly went to that stronghold. The closer you are, the slower it goes. So it actually tends to take the same amount of time, regardless of how close you are, which is kind of convenient. It's one of the reasons why it's easy to relax during these portions of the game. I can just look around, explain stuff, point out things with my cursor, like the guard break ability that he has. Guard break is kind of pointless as an ability anyway. If I block, which doesn't happen often, I'll be slightly stunned, but it isn't easy to follow combos into it. In addition, all guard break is one of the few glitches I could potentially use in the game, which I made a video of and showed off on my YouTube channel recently. I finally recorded it happening. It's not something that I really work for a whole lot, though, because it's not reliable. But if you have a weapon, weapons have various properties I've kind of mentioned but not gone into detail. One of the properties you can have is to randomly cause a guard break effect. I need to actually start advancing my characters now. If a guard break effect happens randomly, and then to a character who has an all guard break property on them, and then they're immediately hit by an attack following, because it just happens to be an attack that does damage on a couple of successive frames, they will actually take a huge amount of damage from the subsequent hit, equal to about half their health. It's really absurd. And again, I posted a video on my YouTube, MSKain's YouTube, that shows that in action. And it's really crazy. it could be something maybe if I could get it to work more consistently, I could try to speed up guard break battles like this one against Raphael. But, you know what, maybe I'll go ahead and try and show it off. This was a marathon stream after all. One of the reasons, of course, that I don't normally do it is that a lot of the time game I could get, if it works, is actually lost in just the time it takes to menu the getting the weapon back. So we're going to go ahead and equip. Lance is somewhere in the middle. Dreadnought. Best Lance. Then I have to remember to switch back to, which again you have to pause, but it's a marathon. Now notice that I'm not starting that fight because Rowan here, once again, we see Rowan again. He is another boss who's designed to start combat for you, so all these characters rush to attack you when you get close to them, and where you hit there from this side just happens to attract both Rowan and this other knight girl. So all I have to do is wait for him to show up and he'll start the battle for me. By the way, once again, a unique lance that you don't get until you defeat him here, and it's really cool. I really love the that sacrifice lance that he's got. Unfortunately, most of the unique weapons, or fortunately for your gameplay here, are not the best because they actually have negative properties, which is pretty rare. Most weapons, your base generic weapons have no properties. A lot of your basic weapons you can buy in the shop have 2 properties that are both positive. A lot of these special character weapons in the Chronicle have 3 properties, or sometimes 4, but one of them is always negative. I'm actually going to lose a Swordmaster here. That's unusual. Oh, God. I think that looking right among other things. Just enough life back. Okay, we're good. That is actually how hard it is for your Swordmasters to die. They did a lot of rough attacks on me that they shouldn't normally do. Whatever. Okay, so they're down. Now these 4 will be finishing off the main stronghold once she finally finishes that one off.
Decisive battle.
Okay, let us see if I can cause the guard break glitch. I usually call this game glitchless because this is the only glitch I can use, and I usually don't even bother, but once again, since this is just showing off a marathon... Don't... There! First right off. That wasn't bad. Come on, work again. The other problem is, of course, I don't get life back from this. But I got it to work and dealt with him pretty neatly. So that was the guard break glitch. Half his life in a single shot. Pretty darn absurdly powerful. It's too bad that there are so few abilities that you can use that really make use of it. That's the most consistent one there, is just that lance charge. Okay, I need to equip Katana back on you. What am I doing? Nursame. You're not going to be able to reach anything in time to join the fight, so there are too many strongholds you'd have to go through to reach us, so he's being retired from the current battle. Now, if I were to lose that battle, I'd be in a really horrible position because I'd lose a lot of time. I'd have to send other characters to go get him. I don't have anywhere close by that he'd regenerate at, so I'd have to take at least one more additional stronghold. But so confident in my ability to defeat him without it happening that I don't even worry about it. Now, it was kind of bad because I didn't have my Mirasame for the time and I still only lost half my health. I did get the lucky guard break proc right at the beginning, but even so. This is looking like a really good split, too. This is going really well. So now is the weakest boss in the game, who has defeated me exactly one time in the entire history I've played this game, and that was a character who had less than 100 health. And so she went into full god mode. But Queen Aurelia is the weakest, most pathetic boss in the game. Not the lowest level, but especially based on where she is, she's just so easy. I guess technically a lot of the earlier bosses I've never lost to because they are so low level and easy as well, but again, this is the part where I should expect to lose a little bit. Also, she repeated the favorite line of this section of the game, just like Luna did. So you come. And that's Aurelia.
It's not shameful to be weak.
It's not shameful to be weak, Aurelia.
I don't
Remember
have time
that.
to play games.
So, the Haltese Republic is destroyed, and its few remaining soldiers are loyal to us now. Maleta, which rebelled against it, has been destroyed, and now the only other kingdom on the continent, Dalkia, is destroyed. So we must be just about done with the game, right? Obviously. Well, actually, we're only halfway done. We are about halfway done with the run now. And sub 2 hour Chronicle 12 is super awesome. Kill Gerardo. Did you notice that in the dialogue that I quickly skipped through? Kill Gerardo. So a year has passed. We are now general of the entire army. One of the reasons we are general of the entire army is that Gerardo has suddenly risen up in rebellion against Grandal. And so now we're fighting these rebels, and even though Gerardo is like a father to us and we love him, we are the TV trope that describes our condition is my nation right or wrong. We are intensely loyal and follow orders, even though we kind of are doubtful about it and we don't want to hurt Gerardo. Our second in command is Abilia. When you're playing this game casually for the first time, this is a pretty awful place to be because since a year has passed, all the soldiers under our command that we've collected over all of these missions as well are all gone now. They've been taken from us except for Abilia, who's our second in command for this Hunt the Rebels mission. And we've been given 3 new characters that are probably not as high levels as the characters we just lost, and have really lousy weapon styles, except for Tina, who uses the kunai, which is one of the better weapons in the game. The others are Steel Fan and Dagger. And again, the biggest problem with Dagger is most people who can use Dagger have awful stats, in addition to it not being a super reliable high damage weapon. So they are horrible companions to have. So that makes this next section of the game pretty darn painful. Now, we're also down to only having 4 characters, which is double awful, and triple awful. They're for SC percent only. There are 3 Soulcalibur characters on this map, including the first pair that we have to fight together. So I have 2 different strats, and I'm still not sure which is exactly faster, but this one is definitely the safer one, so I went ahead with it since we're in a marathon. But I think I've actually gotten faster times with it anyway, so I probably should just stick with it. But I can either send... Xianghua and Keelik are actually on the same map. You have to fight both, or in the same stronghold. You have to fight both of them at once, and they are down at the very bottom corner there where I was sending my main character. Also, shout out to the first of 2 booty bars. Very flamboyantly dressed male dancers with their tambourines. The court jester is tired of his outfit and rebelled against Gerardo or something. Gerardo's rebels have the best outfits, man. Wait till we meet Battle Ninja Maid. So anyway, we have to fight Keelik and him. Now, it is so out of the way that I theoretically lose a lot of time by sending multiple characters there, because then I have to run them back. But sending 2 characters gets it done faster, so even though that's twice as many moving, it just tends to work just about as well anyway. Just kind of a weird thing. Okay, you 2, come on. In addition, our third character, Maxi, is right here, in all unblockable. You might think a level 60 Maxi with all unblockable would be really scary, but even if he gets aggressive, it isn't scary because the problem with Maxi, as you probably know if you played a bunch of Soulcalibur, is that he has a lot of empty moves. So there's no other way to describe them. He does several fast chain comboing hits, and then he has to stop and whirl his nunchaka around for a little bit uselessly before he can start fighting again.
Well, it's time to move on.
So he is the least dangerous person here. Keelik and Xianghua are in a rather dangerous mission called Reserve Offense Up. Some of these names are extremely badly translated. I will, if I remember, on Chronicle 19, I'll point out the best English of the entire run. But Reserve Offense Up actually means increased offense as your hit points go down. It's kind of a common effect in RPGs, in JRPGs. They often have abilities that will do effects like that. Oh yeah, I forgot that there's one that she comes out of the stupid stronghold to fight me. Seriously. That wasted a little bit of time not doing that fight, having forgotten about her. Oh well, not a big deal. But there are certain weapons or attacks that will do extra damage based on how low your health is, and that's basically what the mission does to the characters. So if I can't defeat them in a single combo use and they manage to strike back out of desperation when their health gets low, they will do extreme damage. Luna has it on her very final stronghold actually, but it's not a big deal because she's Luna and she's useless. But when you have level 60 characters, even though one is a monk and the other is a dancer, again, some of the weakest of all characters, stat-wise, even at level 60, it's still rather dangerous because they do have a decent enough attack being level 60. So they're the ones we'll take down first because there are two of them. So that's what Reserve Offense Up is. That's who these two are. Main stronghold is over here, and this is one of our new least favorite missions we're going to meet for the first time, called Separate. Separate, just as its name indicates, pushes us away. Now, we've encountered one called Glue before a couple of times, but I haven't even pointed it out because it's so inconsequential to my fighting style, because I generally charge in really close anyway. Glue pulls you together, or pulls you towards the enemy. Separate pushes you away. And since it's a main fortress, it pushes you very far away. And the character in there has a lance, the longest ranged weapon in the game. And she's very good at using long range pokes to it. And my spin to win is extremely ineffective against it, unless I get super lucky. It's all determined by the enemy's AI. If she decides to get up towards me, after I knock her down, I can combo her with the normal spin to win combo like I'm doing to Xianghua right now. But if she gets to the side, as Xianghua was just doing, the Separate actually pushes me too far away so I can't combo her. And then she'll usually strike out and hit me. It's really awful. Separate is really, really bad. In some ways it's worse than Ice, in that particular mission at least. So that was Keelik and Xianghua. Again, I can usually beat both of them without a problem, but if something goes wrong, which always can with a dancer, and I'm stuck with nobody to fight them, I lose a lot of time. So the safe thing is to use two characters. Theoretically, it should be faster to just send one, but for some reason it never seems to work out for me that way, so I'm probably going to just permanently use two just in case. Okay. Now all I can go is about to there. You can only go a certain amount of length on the map with a single order command. Usually it doesn't matter, but there are a couple of maps where it makes a difference, and this is one of them. On any percent, or on SC percent. On any percent, of course, I could ignore that entire stretch of people. Just bulldoze my way down the middle here. There's only one enemy I end up not fighting on SC percent, which is a pretty common occurrence. Having to spread my characters out and not be able to use the fastest routes, there's a lot of extra fights even beyond the Soulcalibur characters that I have to take on any percent, which is why it ends up being, or on SC percent, which is why it ends up being 40 minutes slower than any percent. Generic Rebel first, because Maxi is the boss. And now Maxi. I didn't make mention of it, but Keelik's secondary outfit I like a lot better this one because he's bare-chested for no reason in his primary outfit, and I like the Chinese dress, the Chinese coat look of his secondary outfit, even though I don't like the colors of yellow very much. Xianghua's black one for some reason. Why did I try to block? I know I can't block him. He's unblockable. Xianghua's secondary outfit I don't like as much. It's okay, but I like her colorful primary outfit a whole lot better. It's one of the few secondaries I don't like much. Maxi is blonde in his secondary, which tends to be a common thing throughout the Soulcaliburs whenever they have two different costumes. He has also the best dialogue upon being beaten in Chronicles of the Sword. Aw, man, you messed up my hair. That is actually one of his random victory lines, amusingly. But they choose it for his "You've defeated me" line in the actual Chronicles of the Sword mode. I find that amusing. Other than I kind of like Maxie better with long hair, even though he looks, he has a definite Elvis impersonator look in his primary outfit. I'm not sure if that was intentional, but considering how Japanese are with American celebrities and stuff, it probably is. Okay, now... Is it this mission? Here's Spoonie Bard number 2, Leshy. Yeah, and I think we should be encountering Ninja Maid here, too. For those who don't get the joke, Spoonie Bard is a line from Final Fantasy IV that's uber-duper famous when... oh, there's Ninja Maid, Kimika. Battle Ninja Maids. Order yours online today. When the sage Tella, after having lost his daughter, is enraged that the silver-tongued bard who seduced her away from him attacks him in rage and calls him a Spoonie Bard, which Spoonie is a very old English word that actually means love-struck. So it's technically correct, although it's just Final Fantasy II at the time. It's Final Fantasy IV, but was released in the US in the early 90s as Final Fantasy II because 2 and 3 had not been. But the very bad translation they did used Spoonie, which was technically correct, but not what was in the original Japanese. However, it's just such an out-of-nowhere weird line that it's become a fan favorite, and so in every retranslation of the game, they've kept it. They even make mention of it in the developer's hall that you can secretly find in the DS remake. It was really tough doing these retranslations of the thing, but the bard, turns out the bard really was Spoonie. We checked after making a couple of other comments about the lines of dialogue that were badly used. Now, the one secret semi-guest character in this game is Cosmos from Xenosaga, which is actually a Namco game, Namco Bandai. Namco at the time. They still were Namco, hadn't yet merged with Bandai. Although, of course, the group that does the Xeno games only did the Xenosaga with Namco. But you actually, one of the ultimate things you unlock and can purchase to make your females is the Cosmos battle outfit. You can make a character look like Cosmos. Everything's going very smoothly, I think. It's quiet, but everything seems to be well, as long as people are still hearing me, which I assume they are, since nobody's complained about a lack of sound. So you can make Cosmos, and naturally, because they would be very weird, none of the Cosmos outfit pieces are ever on any of these created characters, except for the hair. The one we fought there was one of the characters with Cosmos hair, which they did largely, I think, because there were a lack of good hairs, especially long ones for females. So it doesn't necessarily scream Cosmos, but no other Cosmos pieces are on created characters. Just another interesting quirk. Alright, good to know. Yeah, good thing. Also, I have managed to avoid trotting on my power button, which is the one most disastrous thing that's happened to me while streaming. Got my feet well away from it, so that's another fun thing we've avoided. Alright, now just the separate battle left. 3 minutes. We're losing a little bit of time on this map, I think. Not too bad, though. I have a pretty good cushion. Oh yes, of course. The one guy left says, "Oh no, I need to defend my main stronghold. Let me in, let me in." He's not going to reach, though. Again, certain moments are so relaxing. Brunhild tries to reason with us, but Abilia is the ultimate super zealous, my country right or wrong mentality person. Which is probably the reason why Emperor Strife assigned her to be our second in command for this mission, despite our friendship, is because he knows that she will force us to obey his commands. Here's the awful fight. Please, please, please. Thank you. Thank you. Oh.
You're not done yet. You're not done yet.
Oh.
You're not done yet. There's more.
Okay, that could have gone more awful.
It's not shameful to be
That could definitely have been more awful
Sorry
than it
about
was.
that. I had to win this one.
I have had some really fantastic Broomhild fights, but that is not something I can expect. So, yeah, I'm going to lose a little bit of time, but only about 15 seconds. I've got plenty of fishing. I'm doing well. Okay, moving into Chronicle 15. This is the very first mission, but not the last, that gives us a new unique loss condition. We lose if our main character is defeated. This is one I should have practiced recently because I played around with a couple things on its strat. I know its any percent strat really well. I practiced it a lot recently, but not the SC percent as much. I could have left her at 1. Oh well. Doesn't matter really. Pretty minuscule. Any percent is really thrilling on this map because I do what looks like an extreme base race. And it looks dangerous, but I've got it carefully practiced out based on the enemies we're fighting that it is 100% safe, and hilariously so. But in SC percent, I have to deal with the two Soulcalibur characters, Mitsurugi and Taki, who have generally been paired in Soulcalibur lore. They are traditional enemies, so kind of makes sense that they were put on the map together.
Final battle. Fight.
It's over. Where are you going?
But there are a couple of unique things about this map. Besides the fact, first of all, the loss condition, which isn't a big threat as long as my main character isn't fighting Mitsurugi, because this is Ignis is the other super easiest boss in the game. He's the only named character apart from the Soulcalibur characters. All the rest of these are extremely weak. They are only level 13 and 14, and their stats are actually worse than that. They are so pathetically weak. Okay, that's good enough. So I generally don't have to worry much about them. Mitsurugi is pretty dangerous because he's a samurai. Samurai have the highest attack power in the game. It is actually higher than the Sword Masters, at least until level 99, because the Sword Master gets an even bigger stat boost at level 99, but you'll never see that unless you seriously grind to level 100 through multiple playthroughs of the game, or to level 99 rather, which I have done specifically for a New Game Plus run that I did for my sister and Superfan. But it's the only point in the game, surprisingly, where anybody has any better stats than the Sword Master. So Samurai do a lot of damage, especially at level 60 Mitsurugi. His AI is decent as well, so he is moderately dangerous, and I don't want to fight him with the Dancer because he'll slaughter her. And then I lose the whole mission. She doesn't get a chance to regenerate here. That is my loss condition. These rebels have attacked in the middle of the night. They surrounded us somehow, and they are aiming at my leader, so if they defeat my leader, they have succeeded in their assassination. They're pretty incompetent, though, so it's generally not dangerous. Taki, the ninja, is not super dangerous because she's only a ninja, which have okay stats. They're one of the best starting classes, but they are a starting class, so their stats aren't great. And her AI is only okay. But what's unique about both of these characters, though, is that they will, as we're going to see in a minute, they will actually interact with the other characters. Normally, when you start fighting one of the Soulcalibur characters, they spout off a line of dialogue. But here, other characters get involved in the dialogue as well. It suddenly went to the enemy main stronghold because Ignis said, "You can handle this one," before Mitsurugi got a chance to speak. And that always happens, because it's implying that Ignis has hired Mitsurugi as a mercenary in this battle, which fits in with Mitsurugi's lore. And in no other place, except for this chronicle, do they interact with anyone. Taki has even more interaction, as we're going to see. So it's kind of a unique, neat thing about this particular chronicle, and I wonder why they chose to... One of the great mysteries I have in this game, the questions I have, is why they chose to do it here and nowhere else.
It's over.
If Mitsurugi is kind, it's really fine. Oh, he was almost kind.
It's over.
Samurai are largely just attack, but they're not totally glass cannons. Golly, yep. That doesn't happen often, but I am not surprised by it. Mitsurugi can just dominate. He does a lot of damage. Level 60. I'm just glad he's all guard break and he isn't a worse mission, because all guard break is one of the easiest of all. He could take all three of us, even with no regen.
It's over. It's over. It's over.
I would love to have you grapple me. That'd be much worse than for you than actually attacking me. So that's going to cost me a small amount of time. We will see how much. But it's one less person who needs to retreat, so... That's the silver lining. Let's see. Okay. Are they gonna get past? Just barely. Excellent. Let's go and battle here. We should be fine. Alright, everything's going as expected now. So quickly dispatch these two rebels, take a roundabout way to Taki that avoids the rest of them. Some of them may come to attack my stronghold some more, but they will not take it before I end up taking out them, the enemy main stronghold. These rebels are so weak. I two-shot that girl. I'll probably two-shot this one.
Fight.
It's not shameful to be weak. Sorry about that. I had
Minuscule amounts of experience too. Up to level 39 though, which is that higher than normal for this section? Probably not. Kind of feels higher, but we are actually on Chronicle 14, so I usually reach about level 50 with the main character, a little bit past level 50 by the final Chronicle. At which point her levels don't matter. On a traditional stronghold, normally bandits do 5 points of damage, infantry do 4. They both do 4 against main strongholds. However, these, among other things, besides their regular stats being much weaker, these bandits, these rebels also do less damage to strongholds, which is one of the reasons why I can largely ignore the ones attacking my main stronghold. So they just are so weak. They're going to be charging after me mostly now, but they won't reach me, even with as many as there are. Blink, 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 blink. Oh, and look, he can't get involved in the party because there's already 5 there. He is so sad. Okay, up comes Taki. Now, Taki has glue again because glue is potentially theoretically powerful because, as anyone who plays Soulcalibur knows, fast, short-range weapons are an advantage if you can get close to people like Astaroth. But if you're far away, it's really hard to get close enough before he obliterates you with his longer-range, heavy damage attacks. So, in theory, a glue effect on one of those fast, short-range characters, pulling you in even before the fight starts, is theoretically really dangerous, but it doesn't affect much here. So as we attack Taki, she tells us to leave the sword alone, it's for our own good, and Abilia just says, out of our way, and Taki says, your eyes, you've been possessed by the cursed sword, I must eliminate you. And so we're like, okay, we know that Abilia is crazy zealous, but I don't think she's possessed by the cursed sword.
Battle 1. Fight.
Taki, come on. Okay, this is bad. Okay, this is good. I might not engage her against the main boss just in case, because even if I defeat the main boss with the secondary character, if she loses, I actually lose the Chronicle and not win it, so... If she'd been killed by Taki there, I would have lost as well. That was a little bit too dangerous. Would have only cost me like 10-ish minutes, but, which I have plenty of a cushion for at the moment, but still, I'd rather not lose that 10 minutes since I'm on a really good pace. But it's important to have her advance as well because the amount of time you save just by having her hit Stronghold is really large. Oh wow, this is going really excellently too. Despite the death to Mitsurugi and that really tough Taki fight, I'm well on pace for this Chronicle. Usually when I'm running a marathon, I don't even bother to run my own timer since they, you know, I have done a couple of these and they usually have their timer like this one does, but I decided to keep my own going this time. And I'm glad that I'm doing it. Okay, go ahead and pull away just in case. Ignis is usually not a threat, but I really don't want to lose my very excellent pace and lose 12 minutes just because I was foolish enough to try a half-dead hero against the main villain, and he suddenly decided to be a hero for the first time ever. So he has Blast, which we kind of encountered with, what's her name? Luffy back in the final Cluster Pemdo mission, but this one actually works. But Ignis is only level 23. We've been fighting level 30 guys. One of our new companions we have, Tina, notices something odd about these rebels, and it seems to concern her, but Abilia dismisses it. Because what's implied in the little bit of dialogue that's given here is that we see Grandal markings amongst the livery of the people in this stronghold. They've got like flags and stuff from Grandal. And Tina seems really perturbed by this, but Abilia dismisses it as like, oh, well, of course, they were part of Grandal, but they've rebelled. And, you know, so obviously they would have that. They think they're doing what's right. It's very sad that, you know, we've been forced to battle. But this will actually mean something more later. We'll get into that. So now, our big battle against General Gerardo, the final fight against him. So, if you examine the map, it's actually the training grounds where we had our graduation test against him, but greatly expanded. Now, you can see in the map that I took the middle lane, which is now the upper lane there, right in the past, and then headed down to the one right in the center was where Gerardo's capital main stronghold was before, but now we've got this additional area around it, and a lot of enemies to fight. I've had a lot of a fascinating time with this stronghold. I've lost a lot of runs to this mission. My word. Even a generic rebel can sometimes choose to be a hero. I almost wish he'd killed me rather than left me half dead.
Sorry about that. I had to win this one.
Because now I'm in very dire straits. And I will be the main fighter in most battles that I fight. I probably didn't necessarily need to do that, but among other things, it'll help when I die, I'll resurrect there. I do need to go back and defend it. So, just like the first time we fought Gerardo, there are actually two guys here who will join our party. but only one of them, whichever one we defeat first, amongst Rudiger and Theophan. And although I could avoid both of the previous two, Jinkai and Xiaoxin, I found it impossible to avoid these two. For 3 years I've been running this game. And I tried, and recently I actually discovered a strat. I finally came up with a strat that allowed me to not fight either of them and defeat it. And this saves me a bunch of time in the next Chronicle, because I am not...
Are you? It's not shameful to be...
because there's quite a lot of dialogue you have with whoever it is that you recruit in the next Chronicle. And even as fast as I skip through the text, that is a couple seconds worth of time right there. Plus, of course, you know, just less battles that I'm fighting. Ended up being a pretty significant time save once I finally got it working out right. Unfortunately, I can't use that same strat here because... yeah, advance onward. I can't use that same strat here because... I have to fight the Soulcalibur characters. Using the more upper route, I can avoid taking the upper stronghold and doing a few things. It's hard to explain it all without being able to point it all out, but by taking a particular route, fighting just a couple of enemies to keep them away, I can avoid it. It's something I've struggled with a long time because, like in the last mission, it can turn into a base race, but I am going to lose most base races on this Chronicle because the enemy is... By the way, here's Voldo, Sun and Moon Face. This is his secondary outfit. It is one of the most fantastically awful abominations. Laugh at its glorious horribleness. He's a dancer, so he's not dangerous. That is such a great outfit.
This really was.
But anyway, the enemy has a level 5 main stronghold, and I only have a level 4. So I have to do a lot of things to reduce their numbers enough that they won't take my stronghold before I can take theirs. And I'm going to do all of those most safe things here. Like, I'm not even going to let those two cavalry attack it because they could potentially win before I have to fight all these guys here. Theophan's going to be the first one I beat, so he's going to end up joining me. So it's sad I can't do it, but since I have to defeat Voldo and Yoshimitsu, it's just something I have to deal with. Yoshimitsu is moderately dangerous because, like Mitsurugi, he's a samurai. He could have theoretically been a ninja, but they gave that to...
Did I do it?
They gave those to Taki, which makes sense, and Setsuka, which kind of makes sense since she trained herself to be a Japanese sword-wielding assassin. She's actually, in a more traditional ninja sense, kind of closer to the ideal, being dressed as a noblewoman. Because, of course, historical ninja did not wear a uniform that marked them as ninja when they're supposed to be secret spies. About as effective as James Bond in actually spying there. That was Theophan. He's now going to join our party next Chronicle.
Battle 3, fight!
And so even though he technically is a ninja, he's part of a clan of ninjas, the Manchi ninjas. Yoshimitsu is they made him a samurai just because he's wielding a katana. Theoretically, I think it also would have worked to make him a ninja and instead make Setsuka the samurai, but, you know, it's one of their least objectionable choices. I got a couple of the others.
Fight!
I'll rant the most about that when I fight.
Fight!
Kind of bad. Wouldn't have been awful if I died here anyway, really, because I was planning to retreat back in any case, and I wouldn't have had to worry about him again.
Be careful from now on.
But better the least amount of time lost as possible. Yeah, when we go to Nightmare, I'll rant a little bit more about the classes and some of the choices that they made. Now fall back to prevent those two from taking it. I have ignored them before and lost, I think that most of the time I'll win, but if I end up having problems with Yoshimitsu, that suddenly becomes a problem, so I'm just going to lose the minute it takes and make absolutely sure that I'm not in any kind of threat of losing.
Battle 1. Fight.
You can't get away.
It's over.
Oh dear.
Ring out.
That was a mistake.
Fight.
Did I do it?
Again, I'm glad that ring outs do not result in automatic losses.
Final battle. Fight.
Did I do it?
I would lose a lot more time than I would save.
Did I do it? Did I do it?
Ring out. Fight.
Did I do it? Goodbye.
Knockout.
It will be a long time before my sword is complete.
That's the Swordmaster line for Girl 1 voice. I'm not quite sure what it means. I think it's a slight mistranslation. I wonder if by her sword being complete, she's indicating her sword style. Because that's a kind of dialogue I think that I've understood Japanese or similar Japanese characters use in certain anime and stuff. Now to see if my main character is going to survive or not, I am taking the safe bet is on the no for this fight. My hit points are so low. I almost wonder if I should have swapped to a life-stealing tambourine.
Battle 1. Fight.
Oh, holy cow, I'm going to defeat Rudiger. This is the other guy who could potentially join my group. I think I'd usually rather have him. The lance is more useful, and Feofan is kind of looks weird because there's a chibi anime face with 2 large eyes that looks way too weird. Oh, here's another battle made that the rebels excel in. Oh, holy cow, I'm going to survive. I can't believe it. I've got her. Oh,
It's not shameful.
easy. Easy every time.
Well, it's time to move on.
Easy every time. The power of the reverse jinx is very strong. Okay, 10 minutes left to finish this chronicle and stay on pace. That's not bad. Let's see. No, I probably won't change it, honestly. Ah, good, I made it. This isn't strictly necessary either, it's losing me a little bit of time, but it's a security thing. If I lose to Yoshimitsu, I need to be able to recover here so I can defeat him without... Of course, most likely I won't regenerate before this other guy gets in the way anyway, but it still will put me a lot closer to the action. And if an enemy is attacking your stronghold, you can't fortify it, so that's one of those little sliver windows you have to get the action done.
Final battle.
And here is Squid Face Yoshimitsu. I almost forgot about his secondary outfit for a minute, but he's a great Cthulhu guy here. His outfits are always interesting and funky looking, and this one is among the best, Mr. Squid Face. Just like Boldo. Boldo is often one of his primary enemies for a reason I've never really been able to figure out. They're from far different portions of the world, and I mean, Voldo's trying to collect the soul shards and the sword itself for his master who raised him and everything, but he's just one of many people who, if he got the sword, nothing that bad would happen with it because he just wants to keep it locked up. So, just they're both funky and hate each other. They were enemies in Soulcalibur 2. They're destined foes that often happen in those fighting games. I don't know if they ever were in any of the other games, though. Yoshimitsu has always had a wide collection of guys that he's trying to defeat. in his journey to destroy the cursed sword. Anyhow, just Gerardo left, and Gerardo is our second example of Guardian Force. Gerardo is actually the hardest character in the game to beat, because he has a huge amount of hit points and he has Guardian Force. The one good news is that he does damage himself when he uses his weapon. His weapon is one that takes life every time you swing it, so he will eventually kill himself, but he will punish me heavily, and it takes me forever to chip down his health when he doesn't even react to combos. Thank goodness this is the one time in the game where your main character does not initiate combat. I don't know why that is, but it chooses a random character in your party, usually the most damaged apart from your main one, to start the battle. So, which is good because she would be essentially useless, but it's best to keep her on this for anyway. She will usually be the last person to fight. So if it comes to her, I pretty much lose, and I'm going to have to start this over and farewell any chance of a PB. Yae was the most hurt, so of course Yae is going to be the one. Locking. I still like to use this a lot because oftentimes he's not being nice today, but when he's nice, he will attack after I jump above him. Goodness, he is not being kind at all today. If I am super duper lucky, I'll only lose one character against him. Looks like it's not going to happen this time. There, that's what I like to see. But that is not. That was not a good start fight. If I lose two characters, that's pretty average. One is excellent. I don't know if I've ever beaten him without losing a character. I think I have. It's when I switched to... There's one thing that you can do to affect characters with Guardian Force, and that is an attack throw. There are certain attacks that will, after landing, go into an attack throw, sometimes only as a counter hit or something. This is good, much better. And those hits will actually cause them to react, but it's really hard to land them. The easiest way is with the chain sickle weapon. A particular move will often cause a... that's fine. Attack throw, but... And I think once before, when I decided to try the strat of using that chain sickle, I killed him once, but... This looks like it's going to be pretty average. Because that went a lot better, so I should beat him with my third character. Not bad, not bad. Yeah, I'm going to be losing a little time here, but not that much. That's good.
Battle 3, fight.
Look at how much health he cost himself there. Thank you. Okay, that was not too bad. Because of my safety things, I'm going to lose a little bit of time on this Chronicle, but not that much time. This is the longest cutscene in the game.
You do not yet know where to direct that power. Right now, your strength is controlled by others. Think for a moment. For whom do you wield your power? For what purpose? And against whom?
Yes. Really insane priority.
You must learn to control that strength yourself. Otherwise, you will never become a true warrior.
Oh, holy cow. That's Soul Edge. That's Emperor Strife. You probably don't even know that when you're playing this game for the first time. It's like, who's this dude? Why has he got Soul Edge? Well, it's Emperor Strife, the ruler of the entire country. And he has Soul Edge, and we don't know why. And so he just showed up and killed Gerardo in front of us as we listened to his dying words. And Abilia says, well, mission accomplished, and he runs away, you know, and heads back home. While we and the rest of our outfit are thinking ... and we're like, you know, we are huge idiots. How could we do that to General Gerardo, who is like a father to us? You know what we're going to do now? We're going to rebel on his behalf. So all these rebels that we've just been dominating, now we're in charge of you guys. We're going to take up your rebellion in Gerardo's place and go defeat the Emperor. And that's this conversation that our guys are having with Theophan, who we just defeated, who is now in our group. He's like, I don't believe you're doing this, but whatever. And now we enter the worst... Okay, actually... Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's fine. The worst Chronicle in the game. My least favorite, at least. Chronicle 16. So, what's bad about this Chronicle? Well, for some stupid reason, which they don't explain, and which makes no sense to me, they have dropped us back to 3 characters. Which means that we're only doing 60% of the damage to buildings that we should be, just by simple numbers. And so that means that the thing is 40% longer, just based on the time it takes us to take these missions. It's not the biggest map, but it's big enough, relatively. And it's even worse on Soulcalibur percent because of the fact that I have to defeat the Soulcalibur characters. Because once again, we have 3 of them here. 3 of the very worst Soulcalibur characters for missions. I would probably take these guys at the top, just underneath Sung Mina for difficulty. Maybe even worse than Sung Mina now that I've realized how good Spin to Win is on ice, at least compared to anything else I do. It's moderately reliable without dying. But, well, I'll show them off when we get there. The first few battles seem like nothing really bad. Level 16 Grandal soldiers. We are now blue. We're called Artheus. I have no idea why, but that's the name we take as rebels. We aren't the simple purple rebels that Gerardo's group were. No, we have our own flag, and it's got this cool horse head on it, and looks all great. And now we're fighting the Red Dragon Grandal, so we're blue for the rest of the game, and now for the rest of the game we're fighting red. We're going to start encountering some elite guard, though, that are high 40s, low 30s in level, or high 40s, low 50s, rather. They're much higher than anybody we fought up to this point, except for Soulcalibur characters. And it's actually kind of significant because of Chronicle 18 and some of the other named characters we meet. These elite guard do have some major significance. They don't really go into the game, but in the story explanation, but it's evident that these characters are far beyond normal troops. At least in no Chronicle 20. Chronicle 20, they say, oh, these guys are not even human. The Emperor's final elite guards. Whatever, we'll get to that. So this is a long, long, drawn-out, annoying Chronicle. We're going to be fighting somebody in there. Again, since the game is paused while I'm giving orders, I want to make sure that I only give enough orders to where I'm going to stop. And so if I fight a stronghold that has people in it, which it doesn't right now, but this guy's going to retreat from the bottom up, so it's pointless to try and move past that point. Here he comes. Another basic infantry, but there's only one more infantry after that, and the rest of the enemies are tough. So, while we're waiting, I'll go ahead and start talking about our Soulcalibur characters. This one says down lose. This is where Soulcalibur is at. This is actually one of the more fun missions, although it can be frustrating, because of down lose. It's the only down lose in the game. And what down lose means is literally just that. As weird as it sounds, it's a weird way of expressing it, but if you fall down, you lose. If you get knocked onto your back or onto your front by an attack, suddenly an explosion will catapult you up into the sky and you'll lose all your health as you do your death screen for being KO'd and all that. It's kind of hilarious in a way. There's actually a game mode specifically for it in, I believe, well, it's actually one hit in the Soul Arena of this game, but I'm hitting multiple buttons wrong. I've got it.
It's not shameful.
At least I didn't take a bunch of damage or die.
Sorry about that. I had to win this one.
So, Zasalamel, like Sung Mina, is programmed to take advantage of the down lose. He will constantly try to do not quick little chip hits that would do damage into a little bit of combos and stuff. He will deliberately go after attacks that will strike out quickly to the side while you're trying to maneuver around him and knock you on your butt, so you will instantly lose. I usually win only 50% of the time if I try to use my dancer, but I actually have a really good track record with my. I actually have a really good track record with the sword masters. So the last generic guy's in here, and now we're gonna have to start dealing with the super elite, starting with Meilon. These guys not only have much higher stats and levels than most of the named characters we fought thus far, they have a lot better AI as well. They're a lot more aggressive, very good at punishing my misses and dodging my attacks and blocking almost everything apart from spin to win. They're really, really good at preempting my spin to win. It's this is actually the mission with the biggest difference between my any percent and
Fight.
FC percent records. I think I'm down to something like 12-ish minutes on my any percent, while it's just under 20. It's 1922 is my current PB for
Battle 2.
this mission. It's really awful. There you see just how bad she is. That was a total accident. I did not intend to guard break her. I generally am not good at guard breaking. I was just trying to block and I accidentally hit the forward and just got her in time. Now as you can see, you can't actually... I expect her to go out. Oh god, I'm gonna die here. I think I'll actually just sit and recover. That will take a little bit of time, but less time than it would to just die in another fight. And that will actually serve me well as my other two characters go after Soulcalibur just in case. Okay, this will work out. Kind of worrying slightly about my main strat for this. So I'm trying to remember it. Come on. Trying to give orders to your characters is sometimes interesting. You can use the D-pad to maneuver your cursor around and pick out your characters that way. When it gets close enough to a stronghold or a character, it'll auto-lock to them. You may have noticed that if you've been paying attention to it. Like there, auto-lock, auto-lock. But I can also use the R1 and L1 buttons to swap between them. However, it's a little bit tricky to use this menuing because the game keeps track of where you're targeting with the shoulder buttons is. And that is independent from what you select manually with the R1 and L1 buttons. So if I switch between them too much, if I start trying to use the D-pad and then use the R1 and L1 buttons and go back, I may forget where I am, even though the computer, the AI, the game system will not. The menu system won't. And so it's hard to keep track of where I am. The fastest way by far to switch between characters is R1 and L1 to select them back. Okay, here comes Soulcalibur and downwards. Let's see if I'm as lucky as usual here, or if I decide to get the game decides to give me really good marathon luck.
Battle 1. Fight.
Okay. Goodbye. That is pretty normal.
Take heed. I cannot afford to lose.
I have about a 90-95% win rate doing it this way, but I'm always, since you can be one shot, I'm always afraid of Soulcalibur. He usually does, or at least 50% of the time he beats my dancer, so. Yep. Alright, now that I've goaded in this cavalry here, I'm going to skip past her. And this is a new strat that actually my sister and #1 superfan Usagi Bunny came up with. Take heed indeed. So this is Whirlwind, where Talim and Yoon Sung, who met and started to develop a bit of a relationship in Soulcalibur 2 and continue that in Soulcalibur 3 before it, reaching its peak at Soulcalibur 4. They're together here in this Whirlwind, and this is the worst Whirlwind in the game, despite being only a level 2. It is awful. And once again, both Yoon Sung and Talim are programmed to take advantage of it. Luckily, Yoon Sung is a thief, the only thief of the Soulcalibur characters, and Talim is a saint, and both of their stats are pretty awful, especially the thief. But the Whirlwind very much pushes me towards the edge, and they're very good at taking advantage of that to finish the job. So this is a really awful... And once again, the Whirlwind can also push them out of my combo, like so. They aren't the best AI, they aren't quite as bad as Sun Nina, but if they are bad, they can be rough. And the worst part about it is I only have 3 characters, so... It's really, really awful casually when you're first learning the game and you're trying to defeat all of the enemies in your first few playthroughs because you only have 3 characters now and you have to overcome this. And, oh, Talim is being a good girl. Talim, you're not being a good girl anymore. Talim? Good girl, good girl. Yes, good girl. Okay. Spin to win still usually dominates, but this is another one of those fights that always just leaves me harried and worried because if things go wrong, I don't have a whole lot of backup to fall to. But that was slick. Only a little bit of damage. I only have 3 enemies left to face because I'm going to outsmart the rest. Okay, now... Oh, that was the right way. Now, I'm going to pull another enemy away. Perfect. And just in case... So I usually would just pretty much... fight both of those 2 and then go this way, straight through those 2, because it was the fastest route there. But my sister pointed out to me, well, that dancer up there falls back to defend anyway, and that one only is a level 1 stronghold, so it has like half the hit points. So why don't you just go up north instead and take this route on when you're doing SC for Zet? And I was like, holy cow, that's actually a fantastic idea. So this saves me a couple of battles and quite a bit of time over how I used to do it previously. It does give me one more load than I would have otherwise. Although actually with my new extra route I used to eliminate those 2 from the fight, it doesn't even, but it ends up being, golly, she is usually really easy, but she's being punishing today. She's only a dancer too, which means the stats are awful, but that AI... that whenever I decide to, I can just kill you, AI.
Sorry about that. I had to win this one.
Alright, this is one of the slowest stretches in the game. Along with Gerardo, once I get past this stronghold, particularly if I don't lose anyone, which is a toss-up, because it's another powerful separate, it isn't as bad as the fight against Brunhild in Chronicle 13, among other things. She doesn't have a lance, but this can still be an awful separate that can keep me from... and she can kill me at any point. A couple more than that, depending on the character. Primrose has 3, I think. I have 2 on Kenshin, both of which are 2 impregnable characters, Guardian Force characters. Not a whole lot, though. I'm doing pretty well. Hopefully I won't auto loss here, but we'll see. Konomi can kill me at any time. Okay, off to a good start. No. No. Yes. Oh. I'm close enough? Yes, I'm close to the edge. I've got it. If you're close enough to the edge, she has a weapon that helps prevent ring outs. That's one of the most annoying weapons to have because you can get somebody really close to the edge and you're like, this has to send them out. It doesn't work all the time, but it gives like a 75% chance of your character should be going out of the ring. Oh, it's as if you're hitting an invisible wall. You just fall inside, and it's so annoying. But being that close to the edge, it can't push me away far enough because she can't go back. She can't get knocked back as far. So this is actually just about 2 minutes of time where I can't do anything. Where all I can do is wait for my characters to take the stronghold. And nothing else can happen. Actually, with this new wonderful strategy of mine, I do have to click my way through those buildings going down as well. But on any percent when I make this run, I actually can literally do nothing. I could take a quick 2-minute bathroom break at this point. Got to look again at how many losses Mikuni has, but not a lot. I have not died too many times this run. If I could get a perfect run where I get no deaths outside of the ones I expect, like Guardian Force, no losses with my main character, basically, that would save a huge amount of time, but that's really, really hard to do. So Kagami here is actually weaker than Konomi, usually. He's an all-guard break, which is a useless, not very strong mission, of course, and he's higher level, but his AI isn't really all that great, and Separate is just so much worse than all-guard break. If he goes super aggressive, he can slaughter me in an instant, you know. He's a samurai too, so he'll do enough damage to do so, if that's his decision. But he usually doesn't. His AI usually isn't great. It's pretty easy to start the combo on him. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to try slightly defensive strat. Slightly defensive strat did wonders. There we go.
Shameful to be weak.
Good.
Sorry about that. I had to win this one.
And now Tina realizes that the rebels who attacked us, that they're too prepared for us to suddenly join the rebellion. With the rebels suppressed, we had too many powerful elite soldiers ready for us. And she realizes that the rebels who attacked us in Chronicle 14 and were trying to assassinate us in the middle of the night weren't actually rebels. They were the Emperor's soldiers, dressed as rebels, tried to kill us in the middle of it because the Emperor knew that we would turn against him and he wanted to get us out of the way. Now we finally get our 5 characters back, and in this interesting storyline, we are now being faced by our former comrades. All of the people that used to be in our army are suddenly here on this map, and when they realize that we're the enemy coming against them, they refuse to fight us, but then the enemy general of this section, the enemy commander, is like, oh, here are some gifts from the Emperor, and hands them all these weird little pieces of metal. Like, what are we supposed to do with these sword shards? And then these pieces of soul edge that they just got given suddenly turned them into zombies, and they are obeying orders perfectly. So, in order to unzombify them and get them back in our party, we have to defeat them. You know, traditional kind of RPG-style story stuff there. We're only going to do it to one of our characters because it's slow. Now, interestingly, this is the first map, the only map in the game where I fight Soulcalibur characters even on any percent, because it just so happens that the fastest way to get through this chronicle is through the southern route where the 2 Soulcalibur characters are, Sophitia and Tira. We are looking like we're going to be sub 350, which is that 349.50 is my PB / world record, so we are on a really good pace. Oops. This is Coin Collector, by the way. It's the only time we'll see it in the run. But we get money from hitting her, and she's being bad, and I'm being worse. Okay, now I've got her. We're all good. I really like Sophitia's secondary outfit here a lot better than her first one. For some reason, while her outfit is largely the same in this one, all of the blue color highlights that she has in every other Soulcalibur game are gone from her primary outfit, and so that means that she looks like she's fighting in a ship, and it just looks weird. Her outfit in her secondary is really good, though. So here's Mega. If you're playing the game casually, this is your hero. He's the guy he joins you in Chronicle 3, and he's a samurai with a katana, and he will own most of the enemies for you over the course of the game. So if you're playing casually or a special challenge mode where you don't get to make a bunch of sword masters to join you, you're going to be using Mega, and the fact that you get Mega back after this Chronicle thanks to defeating him here is a nice side effect of this particular route that I use. So the person they paired with Sophitia also makes sense. It's Tira. Because starting with this one where Tira is introduced, she's on a mission to steal and corrupt Sophitia's daughter because she has the evil sword is influence in her because of the soul shards still buried, the piece of soul edge still buried in Sophitia's chest that caused her to be born with the corruption in her. So Tira wants to steal her away and turn her into the vessel for soul edge to be completely restored. And of course that ends up creating Soulcalibur 5 and everything, and maybe that can be avoided in the reboot starting with Soulcalibur 6. We'll see. She is an assassin. She is also a thief. Because there are 23 characters and 12 primary classes outside of the superclass Swordmaster, that means each class gets 2, but one character has to be used twice, and they chose Tira. So both Thief, once they reach level 30, or once you have a Thief who has reached level 30, or an Assassin, can use the Soul of Tira, but the Tira they give us here, of course, is an Assassin, because Assassins are much more powerful, and why on earth would they give us a weaker class for a super boss? Thank you, that doesn't matter. That matters. Please be nice. Please be nice. Thank you for being nice. There we go. Okay. Usually, I can get through this without too many problems, but sometimes Sophitia or Tira can be really, really bad and kill me, and that loses me a minute, and it's annoying. She was bad, but not too bad. Usually she isn't much of a problem, and then kind of recently she started being a problem, and so now I'm overthinking her a little. But it's really hard to get off the first spin because glue does take you close enough, and she tends to be a lot more aggressive and high damage than other glue people like Setsuka and Taki. Plus I usually get to use a Swordmaster on them anyway. So now I only have one left to finish this really quick mission. The last two, or the last three, are going to be pretty long to make up for it, but yeah, this is only 3 Chronicles remain after this one. Now, I mentioned way back in Chronicle 4 that there were 2 really tall characters, including Arion, the boss of that mission. So, Aeolus here, Aeolus is the second really tall character, who looks very similar despite being a Grandal commander as opposed to a Dalkian commander. He has the same kind of helmet, similar name, Arion and Aeolus, a lot of similar letters there, A and O in particular. And so it almost seems like they're brothers, separated at birth for the different kingdoms. I don't know. They're obviously have no real story, and his dialogue is very minor besides giving soul shards to my former companion. But it's an interesting little thing. Later on, of course, the later Soulcalibur games do let you adjust height for characters, and a bit of anti-logic. Shorter characters actually do more damage, but it's because they have lesser reach, and it's to balance the game, because otherwise bigger characters, if they have longer reach and did more damage, why would anybody do anything but make strong characters? You know, since it affected gameplay that way. He has all unblockable, which could be a slight problem, but usually isn't. Sometimes he's killed me once or twice, when I'm low, so I'm in about range where he could be aggressive and kill me, but he's generally not too hard.
Battle 1. Fight.
Good. I've done. He avoided the ring out. But he's still trying to attack high, which puts him way over my head. You can really tell how tall he is when I'm crouching and he's attacking over my head like that. It so obviously whiffs. It would anyway. I mean, it doesn't actually affect anything. It's a high attack, and high attacks miss when you're low. It's just a gateway effect, but still hilarious. That's the thing that makes him easy, is most of the time he chooses to attack high. So since I'm crouching when I do the spin, that makes me immune to that. So I didn't gold that, but I made 40 seconds off my PD. Okay, now Abilia. Yep, Abilia will fight any traders, including us. Actually, I want you at 3 to tempt people, possibly. So this is another mission where I lose if my main character is defeated, which is rather inconvenient. And it's a very weird map. It's not particularly large, but it's kind of strangely spread out. So there's a bunch of things. There's a lot of weird quirks that I have to deal with. It's kind of an amusing one because it isn't too much longer in SC percent compared to any percent, but it is just longer that it isn't good to use the same strategy. Because the upper route, it's just a couple of different things here. If I go the upper route, I only need to take one stronghold before fighting Abilia. I'll point out where she's at once I have enough movement on my guys. I know that I can pull them back.
Final battle.
I can let them go without getting attacked. But most of the enemies go by the northern route.
It's over. It's over.
Thank you.
I am the victor of this match.
So I really like that Keelik actually has that scar on his face. It's not quite an X, but it's close enough to it that I really enjoy putting that on Kenshin Homura characters. Okay, now everybody. Okay, now fall back. So it's easier to lure enemies away up top. Sometimes I can lure some of them down bottom when I'm doing the other one, but I have to fight more enemies. But on the other hand, I only have to take one stronghold going the top route compared to all the ones that they take. Now this is something I actually have not done yet. I do it a lot more on any percent just because of the way things work. But I'm doing this to form a plug. Enemies will... I don't actually want to fight these guys. But if I'm defending the stronghold, as soon as they bring it down low, they will start attacking me. I'll have to defend it. But by standing just outside the stronghold, they will not be able to go past it as long as I'm there. And my character will immediately start trying to bring it down. But he should not be able to bring it down before the rest of my characters can get to the main stronghold. So all of those people who normally would like to be fighting me are... Okay, I didn't give proper orders here. I wasn't quite sure how many people would come after me. It's been a bit too long since I've done this one. There. So our Soulcalibur character is here, though, and he is Siegfried. Siegfried is a knight. He's the penultimate, as they would call it. The next to last Soulcalibur character we fight. There's only one left after him. And him being a knight is to be expected. Makes him pretty tough. He also has reserve offense up, which is really dangerous for him. Knights don't have the highest offense, but it's nothing to sneeze at, and the damage just his weapon style naturally deals makes that a dangerous idea if he starts, if I get low. So hopefully I'll be able to combo him up really nice. Now, once again, because this Chronicle has a loss condition of I lose if my main character is defeated, I want to avoid putting my main character in combat as much as possible. So instead, I've been using her simply as a... keeping her out of the main fighting and using her as bait, largely.
Battle 1. Fight.
So, Siegfried's secondary outfit, his primary one, he's got this big old plate mail, so he looks like a knight. But it's kind of unrealistic based on his character story at this point, because he's managed to free himself from Nightmare's control, and he's wandering about as a vagabond, trying to carry and keep both swords, Soul Edge and Soulcalibur, hidden. Ooh, dear. And, you know, a shining knight in armor is a little bit conspicuous at this time period, especially wielding a giant sword. He's dressed here a little bit more like a guy who is more vagabond, I guess. Also looks pretty cool. He doesn't have the long, luscious hair, although it's still a decent enough hairstyle. It's actually a kind that I wish I could give to my custom characters a little bit. Both of his hairstyles are pretty neat. Like his color scheme too, I'm a big fan of red, which you would probably remark upon yourself if you ever looked at all my kind of basic creative characters. Let's see, 240. This will be an interesting race. So hopefully Kenshin should be able to survive this fight because it's with a generic, although it is a Whirlwind. The Whirlwind isn't quite as bad to Swordmasters as it is to my main character, simply because I don't rely on the combo quite as much of just instantly comboing the spin to win. It has a different name than that, but I always just like calling it spin to win because that's what it is.
Decisive battle.
That is also a thing in which this game uses licensed terms from other places, because I've invented the spin to win strat.
Battle 1. Fight.
It's over. It's over.
Thank you for standing around looking like an idiot. Your cooperation is appreciated. Excellent. Okay. No worries about Kenshin now.
Take heed.
He's not going to be involved in any more fights this time around. Now the rest of this chronicle is basically relax. Okay, Kenshin. No. Chico. Yay. Alright, so here's another plug tactic. As soon as I start trying to take the main stronghold, this guy was going to want to come out of his stronghold to attack it. But because I am here attacking it, he will not be able to. He's going to have to stand and wait for me to finish that off, which he won't come close to doing before I take the main stronghold. Now, that, however, is a different matter. Now, this is the place I'd go through normally up top because you can go along this route and it's just a single stronghold. But I can't really do that here. Now, this is looking dangerous. I am going to have to probably fight at least one character. Okay, one. Darn, it's an infantry that came out first. I might have to fight a couple. Oh, jeez. If I weren't on PB pace, I would fight End. But I'm too close to PB pace to fight End.
Final battle. Fight.
I've been trying to get a PB in this category for over a year now. A new PB, and I haven't been able to do it. I really, really
Now
want that
it's time
PB.
to move on.
Most of these fights aren't super duper dangerous, but of course, the more I fight, the more time I waste, so. Ah, jeez. They're all gonna come out one at a time now. I should have just fought the stupid thing. They are just in range to do it. I was hoping I'd be fast enough since I'm a bandit. I should have changed to a cavalry, actually, before this battle started. I would take even longer to take that stronghold then, and then I could run away properly. Oh, Balduin, nice. Here's level 3 Balduin. We get to see him at least. So Balduin's a weird little thing here. Because we're fighting Adelia, we're fighting her characters that she had with her when we fought her in the very first Chronicle, but they're greatly leveled up. However, Balduin is the same level he should have been if he was in Chronicle 1, but he's level 3. I think that he was a mistake, a leftover character who is not removed properly. Oh, blast it. Yeah, now these two. Yeah, I should have just fought them all at once. Next time, I'll save even more time by making her a cavalry for this fight, and that way she'll take too long to take this other stronghold. And that way I won't get involved in the fights. Brilliant idea. Plus I'll be able to run away if I am still getting too close. The way that they spoil the combo, interestingly enough, is if they stay on the ground after too long. Because normally they get up at the earliest possible frame, at which point I arrive just in time to combo them down. But when they delay getting up, I hit them while they're on the ground, then they immediately stand and my combo is broken. Plus they take less damage while they're on the ground than they would if they were standing, so it's a double whammy. Okay, well that cost me a little bit of time. I might lose a minute or two, but I'm still going to be ahead of schedule. Ahead of pace for this. That's feels so good. Couple of new on-the-fly routing changes and stuff really help. Now it's just the wait.
Decisive battle.
I need to get a game up to here and do a bit of practice. I think that I can save a lot of time over where I'm at now. At least 30 seconds or so if I can execute this properly, but the way, especially the way I staggered those four, I didn't do it right. Using a cavalry sounds like a really excellent idea.
I will not lose against a traitor, even if it is you.
Whatever you say, Adelia.
Fight.
Now, Adelia has, oh, Guardian Force. Did I forget to mention that? Yeah. She's less on Guardian Force, and unlike Gerardo and Eiji, she does not have a weapon that costs her health every time she attacks. So that makes this an even worse fight than before. That's an attack throw, which does actually affect her if you can get it off. It's not reliable, though. Because it's easy to avoid, and she has all that time I'm starting it to hit me, but it can do some decent damage if it works. Hilariously, doesn't work right sometimes. I've just about got her, though. This is good. It is absolutely no time lost that I lost, too. Amelia Bedelia. Yes. Bad Ilia, or Abilia Bedelia.
Battle 2. Fight.
It's over.
Okay, she's gone. However, I still have 2 enemies to face, and every enemy in this stronghold has Guardian Force, and I don't want to fight anybody with Guardian Force anymore. So I'm done.
Fight.
Yes. Goodbye.
Good hit. You definitely hit me with ring out there.
Battle 4. Fight. Ring out. Fight.
Oh, come on. There we go.
Ring out.
What?
So that is 100% intentional. It's part of the run. It's not me giving up on actually completing it or anything. This game has a unique victory condition that is to defeat the final boss only. I don't have to take the stronghold. All I have to do is defeat Abilia and make sure that my character doesn't die. But Guardian Force is a real pain to get through, even when they're level 18 nobodies. It would just take so long. It's actually faster to go ahead and kill my own guys, usually, if I have 2 or less left, than it is to try and fight them. So my mess-up cost me 2 minutes there, but I'm still ahead, nicely ahead of schedule. I'm 2 minutes above my PB at the moment, so, which is world records again, since I'm the only runner of this game. So now Abilia decides to throw her lot in with us, and one more too. Luna appears. She's like, hey. So after the war, this annoying guy named Gerardo took me in, and he was telling me that if anything happened to me, you have to take care of Primrose. Why on earth did I get that job? Anyway, here's the sword, Soulcalibur. You can make good use of it, right? Let's go. And so she joins the party. Yes, Luna appears out of nowhere. Gerardo took an interest in her, took her under his wing, took care of her after the battle and all that. So now she's come back to join our party. The Chinese blades weapon that she uses is actually pretty awful. I've never been able to do much with it, especially reliably. But she is level 50, so she does have some use casually or in certain modes, just as a meat shield. Somebody who can absorb a lot of hits and deal out some damage. Unfortunately, even though she storyline-wise gives us Soulcalibur, you don't actually unlock Soulcalibur for her style until you beat the next Chronicle. We are in the next to last Chronicle now, but you have to win Chronicles of the Sword before you unlock Soulcalibur, even though storyline-wise, she gave it to us so we could use it against Strife and his Soul Edge. Well, thank goodness we still have it. So, final Soulcalibur characters here. In this little poison spot is Nightmare. Now, on the first level, it is appropriate to be fighting Nightmare as the final boss, the final Soulcalibur boss of the game, because he is, pretty much the primary big bad villain of the Soulcalibur universe. He is Soul Edge itself, imbued into a suit of armor. However, there are 2 problems with this. Number 1, his mission is poison, which is so awfully... It's actually the strongest poison effect in the game, and I think it actually regenerates him in a weird extra effect as well, slightly over time, so it's a dual-pronged evil sword. But it's still not nearly significant enough to be worth notice. And number 2, the problem is that he's a barbarian. And this is where the game really screwed up, I think, by making him a barbarian. Now, they did that because the weapon style matches the Iron Sword, which is the default barbarian weapon style. The other barbarian, of course, is Astaroth. Makes sense. The big giant axe is appropriate for a barbarian class anyway, even if technically Astaroth isn't a barbarian. He's the closest thing the game has to it. And in that sense, also, as a mad, evil monster, Nightmare is also, kind of barbarian-y, berserker-y, but his title is the Azure Knight, so you would think he would be a knight, especially since Siegfried is also a knight. I personally would have made Rock the other barbarian, because he is actually the closest thing the game has to a barbarian. I would have made...
Battle 1. Fight.
I would have made Siegfried a... Oh my word. Seriously? We're off to a great start on this Chronicle. Tomoe just decided that she wanted to own me. Now I've got her, though.
It's not shameful to be weak.
So I would have made the Barbarians, Rock, and Ashtaroth. I would have made Nightmare and Siegfried the Knights, because that just makes sense. Raphael would have been a pirate, and now Suzuma's really going to kill me. Katana is such a really awful thing. This is going to lose me by the time. Not super unusual. The Katana is one of the worst things in the game anyway, one of the most aggressive stats, and after Tomoe did that much damage to me, it's absolutely no surprise that, yeah, giving me a taste of my own medicine there, even. This isn't me distracted by talking either. This is just, when the AI decides to be awful, it will be awful, and that's especially true of these level 50 guys. I was talking before a little bit about that, and now the minions, that's mostly what we're fighting now, but when I was fighting my guys, again, they were only level 30 to low 40s, even though the previous Chronicle, I'd been fighting some of these elite guards who are low 40s, high 40s, low 50s. And now I'm fighting more of them here. And we fought some of them in last Chronicle with Abilia's forces as well. But Abilia's personal troops were the ones who had been with her previously in Chronicle 1 had only been upgraded to mid-30s level. So it shows that there's a bit of a divide between these elite Randall Guard that the Emperor has sent to stop us and all the rest of the forces under his command. Even the, experienced soldiers such as Abilia. And by the way, I find it sad that even though Abilia joins us 3 times over the course of the game, we never get to, and despite her giving them orders to help us, we never get her helpers of Ishtar and Notice to join our party. So anyway, back again to what I was talking about. I get distracted by a lot of things sometimes and go off on many tangents. But again, my rant about the weapon styles. We have Nightmare and Siegfried as your knights. Raphael could have been a pirate because pirates are fencing classes as well anyway. Even though he kind of fits an image of a knight, at least a later 16th century version of one. They're no longer supposed to be people in plate mail armor. They are just nobles who are trained in fencing swordsmanship more than any other generally. At least in most of Western Europe. Would have moved Ivy from pirate over to sage, which better matches her description as an alchemist. Cassandra, who technically has kind of been relying on the same holy powers as her sister, doesn't really know how to channel them, and she would have been a gladiator, which would have fit because the base weapon of gladiator, what's supposed to be their primary weapon, is sword and shield, but neither of the sword and shield users actually are actually gladiators. So a little bit of an oversight there. Most of the rest I probably would have left as is, although there's another one with that with sages as well. And that's where it really gets me again. The only real reason Nightmare is a barbarian that I can conceive is because Iron Sword is based on Nightmare's style, and so they decided to put him there. But the Chinese blade that Luna uses is based on Xianghua's weapon, but Xianghua isn't a sage. Sage is the only class that can use Chinese blade, but Xianghua, rather, is a dancer. So why didn't that sword go to dancer if they're supposed to match up? And again, sword and shield is the primary weapon style of gladiators, and yet neither of the sword and shield users are gladiators. Instead, Sung Mina is, which kind of makes sense, I guess, just a basic fighter who doesn't fit into any other types or frames. And you go up and fight him, because otherwise he's going to come at us. And Rock being a gladiator really doesn't make any sense to me. He really should have been a barbarian. Later editions of Soulcalibur, of course, they totally forego the classes. Pretty much anybody can swap into any weapon style, but even if you're creating characters just in the base game for use in Soul Arena or Arena Quick Play, such things, you do have to choose a class, and then you can only choose between the unlocked weapon styles of that class. which is kind of interesting. But in all the other Soulcaliburs, when you make a custom character, you can choose their weapon style at any point in the game. Or pretty much any point after creating them, whenever you customize them. Including in Libra of Souls, you aren't stuck with the weapon style you first give your character. You can swap between weapon styles after every battle, or before a battle even. Before you start a fight, you always get a chance to adjust your weapons and choose a new weapon to use. Pretty neat. How are my levels looking? I haven't really looked. 52, which is pretty average. 34, 28, 31, 28. That's about fairly evenly spread. I like that spread. That's a good one. Sometimes, since I don't pay a whole lot of attention to who fights what with my sword masters, I'll end up with one or two that are severely over-leveled, which can be a detriment depending on how things shake up in the final Chronicle. It can also make things easier, but it's generally safer if all of them are roughly the same level.
A hero. Battle 1. Fight.
Eileen is being nice to me.
Shameful to be weak. Well, it's time to move on.
Yeah, 3 losses with her is all so far. That isn't bad. Okay, time to do some clever stuff. Alright, so these guys are going to come in to fight me. There's something interesting about these 3 guys. There are actually 4 of them. The only 4 generics on this map, the last 4 generics we'll fight in the game, are all huddled around the main stronghold here. You can see there's a couple of triangles facing different directions in the main one, though, because one of the 4, at some point, always retreats back into the main stronghold, and I always forget to look at when it is. When I look at the very beginning of the map, you can see the 4 there, and I look at that often. But then at some point, as you're advancing, she decides, this is hilarious, she decides to retreat back into the main stronghold for no reason that I can discern. It's just the thing she does. None of the rest of them do. They move forward to engage me as I try to approach. I would rather if they all did. That'd make this a whole lot easier to figure out. Looks like I'm going to have an even 100 wins with her, too. It's nice. So they're easy to deal with. And that'll leave us just Nightmare and final boss Chester. Yes, Chester survived. We actually learned that back in Chronicle 14, before the fight of the Rebels, which again is kind of part of this clue that that these rebels aren't all they seem. They're not really rebels. They might be the Emperor going after us. We actually see a conversation between Chester and Strife. And
Final battle. Fight.
so Strife found Chester alive and has been forcing him to serve as his spy master for the past year. Is using him, and Chester hates it, of course. He wants to be a king and get his own power. So as the final boss here of this Chronicle, he's going to try to get his revenge on us. But even though he's a level 60 sword master, he's actually just as lousy generally as he has been this entire time. So now I'm going that way to form another plug option. Again, because once I start attacking the main stronghold, she's going to try to retreat out to defend it. But by attacking it with my main character there, she'll be prevented from doing so. Now, a couple things here. This place I took, mission, Cure Sapelite. This is wonderful English that is supposed to be Cure Separate. If you actually were to fight anybody there, you would have both Cure and Separate in effect. Over here, this aerial wind is End, that BLBL took note of. BL's notes. End is the ultimate super boss in the game. He's a level 99 super boss, but he's a regular custom created character otherwise. I don't know why they called him End and made this level 99 super boss way over here, but I do like to fight him for marathons and stuff, and I would today if I weren't on such super awesome pace. Am I actually not going to make it through? I should. I'm pretty sure I always do, right? Yeah. Okay, now.
Decisive battle.
Yes, time is roughly 10 minutes away, I want to say. The final chronicle is not super duper long. I will let you know when time's starting to come up. But if everything goes right and I get my PB pace, it should be about 10 minutes. Oh, go over. Come on. Nightmare. Super easy final boss. Yes, final chapter is Chronicle 20.
Be careful from now on.
So that's the next one. It's very unique in a lot of ways and goes pretty quickly, actually. If all goes super well, that's a 5-minute chronicle, but it's usually 8 on average. That's what my current PB is literally 8 minutes and 1 second. So I could end up saving even more time, but I don't want to bank on that. Okay, she can't do much here, so it's just a bunch of waiting now for the rest of this. Okay, 250, and we are under 400, so we should be fine. If I really need to, I can actually back her off as well. And just let the fight play out. So, gonna be losing a little bit of time here, I think. Of course I am. The death to I didn't have a death in my PB on this map. That was pretty rough for me. Oh yeah, we got this. Good. I'm fine. So yeah, I'll lose about 30-ish seconds a minute there. But I'll still be fine. I'll be ahead of pace. As long as I don't have a disastrous Chronicle 20, I should PB here. Okay. As long as this fight doesn't go disastrously. Chester is generally pretty easy, but he can slaughter me. Well, he can slaughter the dancer, but since I didn't bring Primrose to this fight, we should be fine. Goes a little bit slower, but a lot more reliable with Swordmasters instead.
One. Fight.
Chester has white hair now. And again, level 60 Swordmaster, he has super awesome stats, but stats aren't super important in this game. If he attacks, he kills himself. His weapon deals damage to him too, so if he had even attacked, he would have killed himself at that point. That's hilarious. I should have let him do it, but no, I can't waste that time. And then a level 19 girl for no reason in particular. And again, the very final stronghold in the game. This is the last stronghold. There are no strongholds in Chronicle 20. Last stronghold of the game, the mission is Guard Break. Why? Well, I'm glad it isn't Guardian Force. That would make this a super duper awful fight, but it feels really weird and kind of disappointing. Haven't been able to stream recently because of minor health concerns, allergies recently. They've been good today, thank goodness, but because I haven't been able to, I'm a little out of practice for talking for 4 straight hours. Just starting to lose my voice, but thank goodness we're almost done here. I have 9 minutes to do this. Easy. First thing we get to do is go to infantry for the first time since Chronicle 4. Yes, we're actually going to use infantry. This is faster. I don't care about you. I am really good at talking if I have something to talk about. Okay, that went well. Slightly tricky pathing here because of these multiple paths to go the optimal way, because these characters all have theirs a slight mess up. Otherwise going good. I can go a slightly slower way that's a little bit easier to do, but still saves me more time to do it this way. Okay, we're good. Excellent. So that wasn't too bad on that pathing, and now I just sit around mostly for the next little bit, because these characters do not move. They just stand in my way, and so I can load up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fighting screens before Strife, Or I can just let my minions pound them into the ground by ganging up on them 5-1. Whoever gets the last hit on the enemy is the one who actually gets the credit for killing him and the experience for it. So you'll see random level ups popping up on my characters. They actually, the less I get, the better at this point. Although it kind of feels good if one of my characters who might be fighting Strife levels up, so he has slightly better stats, but they mostly mean nothing at this point. I really don't want to see my main character level up, though, because she is not going to be used in the final fight for a couple of reasons. I actually want her to absorb enough hits to almost kill her, because I don't want to use her in the final fight for 2 reasons. Number one, again, if I lose her at all, I have to restart the Chronicle, and that's bad. Number 2, if she fights Strife, I actually get an extra cutscene that I don't want to see, because that takes time. So, the goal is to beat Strife with our minions. So, as long as my main character absorbs some damage, but not all of it, not enough to die, we're going to be in good shape. Hopefully, most of the damage will go to only 1 or 2 of my characters, and I'll have other characters beside the main one, and then I'll have 1 or 2 mostly full-strength characters to fight Strife with, just in case. Because Strife is really bad. If I get lucky, largely with ring outs, I can beat him with a single character and in short order, like my 518 gold split for this map, or if things go kind of rough, it could take me 8 to 10 minutes, like the 8 minutes and 1 second, or 8 minutes and 0.81 seconds it took me in my PB time for this split. Otherwise, though, this is it. Now, you may notice that there are different color bars for hit points. We have 2 purples here. And again, with these set characters, they do not have stats. The Soulcalibur characters do, but these other characters have special stats. Acacia has the most hit points in the game, 894. Strife is second with 887. He's a level 60 Swordmaster. I don't know why she has so many, but she does. Okay, who's losing hit points? Chrono? This character has low hit points but does a lot of damage, so there's a potential that my characters could die. Generally only on any percent, though. It's something I have to watch out for, but on SC percent I usually have enough that, and they consistently reach enough that I don't have to worry about my characters dying. Looks like, yes, 2 will be taking damage. Kenshin will take some here, but this will go fast. Okay, final fight coming up soon. Hopefully final fight. Final couple of fights. Kenshin is 3rd place backup. The other 2 took no damage. That's nice. So Ichigo's going to start because he's highest level. Gives me the best chance. Strife, in addition to having outrageous stats and 800 hit points, has a weapon that is pretty much exactly like the Murasame that my katana people have been wielding. It does his life slowly over time, reduces it, but he does get life drain back from doing damage to me, so it's really hard to, really hard to guarantee being able to beat him. It's now looking like an eventual sub 345, which was my original final goal for this I've had for a while, is within sight. Not right now, not this run, but
Final battle.
okay, here we go. So time is coming up at the end of this fight once I beat him. The thing to look for is for that red shield under his health bar to go away, because if I ring him out but that doesn't kill him, then it would be a false start on time, and you won't hear KO then, but looks like coming up in just a second or so here. This is grand.
It's over.
And time.
It looks like I'm the winner.
Yes! 345.54, despite a bunch of bad splits. A couple of new pulled out of my hat strats that worked super duper well. A couple of other things, even with a couple of safety strats too, on Chronicles 15 in particular. I lost a minute there largely just because I was playing it super safe. Really rough time on 18 as well. I can save a couple minutes there by playing that right. That's our, I guess, 4th world record. It always feels weird to say it's world record when I'm the only runner of the game, but that's what it is. That's my PB. So So a character comes up, sees Strife, and just walks away from his dead corpse. And now, great dialogue.
Emperor died. Both the evil blade and the holy blade disappeared into darkness. The empire collapsed, and the people were left only with devastated lands and the memories of the terrible war.
Emperor died. Not Emperor Strife, not Strife.
The people,
Emperor was his
however,
name, apparently.
eventually forgot the hardships. They rebuilt the razed villages and sowed new seeds upon the destroyed fields.
This is a very short ending, so I'm letting it play out. I let it play out every time. And now coming up is the best statue ever. Pay careful attention to this statue if you have not seen it before.
They told the tales of the great ones who spilt their
And
blood
look upon the
those
glorious magic of ancient Renaissance era animatronic statues. Check out that hand. So that's Soulcalibur 3, Chronicles of the Sword. Special game mode that they give you.
The legend
And that's the end of
will never
License-a-thon.
Soulcalibur!
Thank you very much for having me. I know it's late, but I do have one thing I could show off that I like to do at the end of marathon runs, if you can spare a few more minutes.
History.
Okay, here it comes. This is a semi-comedy movie demonstrating Soulcalibur physics. Some basic fights to start with. But wait, it gets better. That happened. Good old Voldo. And Lizard Man. Voldo crawls backward faster than Lizard Man crawls forward. And Yoshimitsu needs to get on the funky action. And now this is simply showing off probably what is the highest level single combo in the game, which you would need a task to do properly, I think. But just seeing it once isn't enough.
Was that too much?
Now we're showing off all the various jumping methods, coming up in a second here. All the things that count as being in the air, which allows Ivy to grab you. Let's play. I went last leapfrog for good measure. So, that's Soulcalibur 3. That's all I got. Thanks for watching, and thanks for letting me be a part of this, guys. It was great to shut off like that was even better to get such a good PB. That's a 4-minute PB that I got too. That wasn't small. That was pretty huge. Really great run overall. So yeah, just thanks, and that's it. So I guess I'll sign off now.
Thank you so much to MSKain for that fantastic run, ending out the night and ending out the marathon. I'd just like to invite Jack 8, the organizer, to step into voice channel with me.